years with the Connecticut Human Anti-Trafficking Team and Task Force. She is active for that same period of time with an organization known as the Underground, which is a large anti-human trafficking organization here in Connecticut. Investigator Liupa is certified as a post-police trainer in multiple subject areas regarding human trafficking and sexual assault. Amongst the many areas she trains in, and amongst the many departments and people she trains, this is the individual that provides this training for all of the Capital Region Police Departments and Capital Region Police officers in this very specific subject area. So we thank you for the opportunity to present her to you, and we believe that you will enjoy and benefit from your time with her this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. I don't want to have my back to anyone, and I know that this is being broadcasted. Is it okay if I take the mic and stand up? And if so, is there a better position?
Just make sure it's on.
Okay. Does that do anything? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great. I'm hoping that this will click on the video. So, good evening, everybody. How are you? That's good. I'm Sue, as the chief was nice enough to introduce me, and I'm from Bloomfield, Connecticut. I'm actually very active in Enfield as well. I come here often with my family. So wonderful town, and I appreciate what you do in this town. And more than anything, tonight specifically, I appreciate that you're having me here, because to me, human trafficking really hits home. Human trafficking and sexual assault investigations really was a passion of mine as a law enforcement officer, as a detective. And I think it really can hit home to any of us in any of our communities. And the reason I think it's important is, first off, having town council and just supervision across the town, as well as community members. We can consider bringing this training. Today's just an overview, right? But other trainings, and I'll give you some materials at the end of what other trainings you might be interested in to your own community. And there's opportunities to do that for free and really start a discussion on human trafficking within your community. But for me, when I present, my goal is always to try to make what's happening in your home, with your families, with your loved ones, the safest. So if you could show me, who has children? Okay. If you don't, if you leave your hands up for a second. Nieces or nephews? Okay, got a few more. No or ever been around children ever? Okay, everybody but one? Okay, so my point of doing that is this material really does apply to all of us, okay? Human trafficking isn't just about children, but I focus on that a lot because that was a lot of what I did throughout my career. So that's a little bit about me. And that doesn't, okay. It is a very sensitive topic, so please feel free to, take a step out of the room. I won't be offended whatsoever if anybody is not okay hearing this topic matter. I will try to PG it down, especially since I know it is being broadcasted. But if you wanted to talk to me after, I'm happy to stay and talk to you. I can't guarantee that will be PG down though. Okay. I'm gonna start with a video, and when you watch this video, you might hear some old wording, right? We try to get away from words like a child prostitute, right? There is no such thing as a child prostitute or a pimp. We want to get away from those words. You're talking about a victim, a trafficker, right? And for the person who's doing the purchasing, that's not a John or a Jane Doe. That's going to be your exploiter.
I got started when I was 13.
I was really young, and the people that bought me were people that were looking for, child fetishes.
There was like 15 of them in a room, and I was really scared.
He cut me with a knife to be able to penetrate me. I was only 5.
I was crying because I was scared, and he had sex with me, and that was my first time. I still had on my school uniform.
Men who come here to abuse children in Cambodia have 99.9% of the time already abused children in their own countries.
afraid to actually go through it.
All right, Brian, we got her.
We as a nation are going to have to sit back, take a deep breath, and realize, oh my God, this is in our neighborhoods, in our families, in our communities. It's right under our noses.
We frequently see drugs and psychological brainwashing become part of the process of keeping them committed to the offender.
Men will actually fly into Atlanta, get on the internet, say, I want a boy who has no hair on his head, no hair anywhere, I want him to look like he's 13, I want him to be no taller than 5'2", order it, show up here, have sex, and be gone.
She touched my arm and smiled.
The sexual exploitation of children has become a cottage industry, driven by the internet.
It's very difficult for us to define the problem of child pornography to the American public because it's something we obviously can't show them.
There are some of the acts that I couldn't even describe to you, against children so young that no normal person could look at that without being disturbed.
It ain't about sex. It just be about business, that's it. Once you get them to go the first time, then you got a better chance of getting them to keep going.
I was really nervous and I was really scared, and he was holding his gun and shot me.
Cannot arrest 11, 12, and 13-year-olds and charge them with prostitution. You cannot criminalize children.
I think people view the prostitution like a victimless crime. Most of the girls that we come across nowadays are 13, 14, 15 years old. I know these girls didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to be a prostitute today.
There are millions and millions of photos of children who are being sexually abused. Nobody knows who these children are.
And it raises the question to us, are there that many pedophiles out there? Or is something else happening?
Okay, so I understand that was heavy. Again, if anybody needs a break, please feel free. If you could just say one word, what are your thoughts on that? Disgusting. Disgusting. That was my first word, right? And as I watch it more and more, I started seeing other things. Every time, I can't tell you how many times I've watched it, and I see something different every time. I see diversity, right? There was black, white, Hispanic. It looked to me like there was some socioeconomic diversity, right? So I'm not coming here tonight to make all of you afraid, oh my gosh, Enfield is this nest of trafficking, right? I don't want you to walk away feeling like that. I want you to know that the risk is everywhere, right? Anybody can be affected by it. And that's why I think it's really important to bring the safety training into your community like you're doing tonight, right? And this is, again, a little piece of it. But awareness and safety, to me, is a big part of it, because you have potentially children, adults being assaulted. And to stop that, we really have to get the community aware and know what the signs are, right? And I'll talk about some of those tonight. I only have like 20 more minutes. So you see up here, and I'm not a slide reader, so please feel free to read the slides if you would like. But when you have trafficking, there's an action, right? A way to bring the person in. A lot of times our victims are being found because they have a vulnerability. All of us have vulnerabilities. That's not even a question. Right? And even all of you, you're sitting here tonight, you're doing a great thing for your community, and all of you, you're attending these meetings, but there's still vulnerabilities at home. Maybe you have I have a babysitter tonight, right? Somebody else is watching my kids, and maybe they're saying, well, my mom wasn't there for me tonight. Maybe somebody else could be, right? So it could be just a little vulnerability that you don't even realize, but it could be for that person who becomes a victim. So that trafficker will often find that vulnerability and exploit that, right? So when you have human trafficking, the person who is being trafficked, whether it is sex trafficking or labor trafficking, 3 things are happening: force, fraud, or coercion. One of those 3 things is happening. And again, there's sexual trafficking and labor trafficking. With sex trafficking, in the state of Connecticut, does anybody know the age of consent? And the officers in the room can hold, I know you know, but anybody know the age of consent? 16. Yeah, it's actually pretty low in Connecticut. 16 years old is the age of consent in Connecticut. But a 16-year-old cannot consent to prostitution. Anybody under the age of 18 cannot be arrested for prostitution. There is no child prostitute. So in Connecticut, if you have force, you don't have to have force, fraud, or coercion. If you have an act in exchange for a good, right? A sexual act in exchange for that good could be what? Money, gifts, grades in school. If you have an act in exchange for a good, that is trafficking. There doesn't even have to be a third party involved. The person who is making that purchase can be charged with trafficking related charges. And this is something that I go out, and other trafficking instructors throughout the state of Connecticut go out, and we train law enforcement in this, and they have a much more detailed training, obviously, than the community training, and they know how to handle the trafficking cases, and they do it quite well. And that's in fact, attending those trainings is the reason I was brought in here tonight, because of community education. So under the age of 18, you don't have to have force, fraud, or coercion. Over the age of 18, whether it is sex or labor, you need to have one of those 3: force, fraud, or coercion. All victims have rights under the Trafficking Victim Protection Act in the United States. And I am so sorry, I did not realize how hard that would be to read. But some of the rights are up there, right? They can't be inappropriately incarcerated or held in an inappropriate facility. They should be provided with medical attention, things of that nature. There's been a huge push nationwide to make improvements for victims. And thankfully, Connecticut is very progressive with our anti-human trafficking. And we have had our definitions line up, but they didn't always line up as far as our legal definitions for what trafficking is. And there's mandates on law enforcement receiving training, how often they receive the training. There's also mandates for medical providers. There's trainings for hotel, motel business owners. There's multiple trainings that are available and provided for free throughout the state of Connecticut. So I'm going to talk really, really quickly about labor trafficking, because I talk too much, if I'm being totally honest. So I'm going to skim over it, and I'm just going to let you know that the ones that are in red here, and I apologize for the people in the back, but the ones that are in red here are all ones in Connecticut that have been found and substantiated for labor trafficking. And then the ones that are in back are other examples where we might have trafficking. And I'm sure that we've had more than that. But labor trafficking is oftentimes very, very hard to identify and investigate. Some people get a little confused about smuggling versus trafficking. So I'm just going to let everyone know, if you're smuggling or bringing someone in, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're being trafficked, right? They're not being forced to do work, force, fraud, and coercion, but it does make them more vulnerable, right? Maybe they owe $12,000 because they were brought to the United States, and they have that vulnerability, and now they have debts to pay. And as they're working off that debt, they're building more debts because they have rent to pay. So it does make them more vulnerable, but sometimes when we do this presentation, that's one of the big questions that we have. So I wanted to mention that all to you. And I have some indicators up there. I apologize. I meant to bring handouts tonight with indicators. They're on my printer, with indicators for you, but I'm happy to either give you a resource where you can find all of these or email them out. But Connecticut Department of Children and Families has what's called the Human Anti-Trafficking Response Team. They have a very good website. So if you just Google search Connecticut DCF and type in HART, like a heart. There are resources on there, including indicators of labor trafficking as well as sex trafficking, that you can look for within your own community, your children, your nieces, nephews, anybody that you know or interact with. And again, labor trafficking is a little bit more difficult from my experience on identifying and investigating those cases. Not living at the place of employment. Who's coming out and saying, "Oh, I actually sleep in a cot in the kitchen," right? People don't normally tell you that when you go to pick up your food. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to sex trafficking. And this screen that you see here, the heat screen of the United States is all trafficking cases reported to Polaris, which is one of the national anti-human trafficking organizations. And you can see that our area of the state is lit up like the 4th of July. Does anybody know or have a suspicion why that might be? We're near New York, right? What else are we between? New York and Boston, right. Many trafficking victims are actually being trafficked from their home at that time, but people who do travel, right? We have that beautiful 95 corridor, right? We have Berlin Turnpike. We've got an international airport with a little bit less security than some of the nearby international airports, right? Little things like that, and just reasons that sometimes people are like, oh, we're Connecticut, we're safe, we're peaceful, and I do feel that way. I love my state, but it doesn't mean we should completely let our guard down, right? It's really important to know what the vulnerabilities are within our community as well. Am I clicking the wrong button? Yes, I am. I'm gonna skip over sextortion. I have a video that goes with it, but I don't think I'm gonna have time for that. So, what I will say is sextortion is that, and we see this a lot, the law enforcement officers in Enfield will probably tell you this. What I would like for all of you to keep in mind is talking to your kids about phones, right? Educating them about appropriate apps. I have, my oldest has his first cell phone, but guess what? I don't call it his cell phone. He knows that's mom's cell phone. Because who pays for that cell phone? He sure doesn't have a job. It's my cell phone. I pay for that cell phone. And if I'm paying for it, I'm going to know the password. And I'm going to look in that cell phone, right? And I'm going to have a discussion. Hey, I don't know anything about this app. You know, maybe I'll play dumb and he'll show me, oh yeah, here it is. And he knows that occasionally I'll look in his cell phone and I'll read the messages. And I've caught some things where I'm like, you should really consider your wording, or I want to talk to you about this conversation. It's really opened up the conversation with him. And I know that as he gets older, he's not quite a teenager yet, it's going to become more difficult. But I've already started that. I've already started that discussion. If you have a teenager who's like, absolutely not, you're not getting it, at least start the discussion, right? If there's a training going on, maybe you want to bring that teenager. I've had teenagers come to the human trafficking trainings, and I've had parents call me after and say, that car ride home, I learned more about human trafficking and the concerns that my daughter sees than I did during your training. Because the child just opened right up. Oh, well, not me, but I know that blah, 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 blah. And it just opened those doors. So communication, communication, communication. Talking to your kids and finding out and learning from them. In fact, the gentleman who does statewide, he goes into schools and law enforcement officers, Mike Driscoll, learns the most from the kids he's teaching. He'll spend every time at the end of his training to talk to those kids and find out what apps they're using. And that's where he learns most, is from those kids themselves. So please talk to your kids. So who's at risk? Again, anybody who's vulnerable. This slide does not mean only these people on the slide are vulnerable, but these are people who might have vulnerabilities, right? Your LGBTQ plus population, low income, disabilities, things of that nature. And as you could see, those are all groups of people that might have more vulnerabilities just based on their circumstances. So here's some red flags that you can look for. Again, I'm not a big slide reader, right? But I believe in talking to people and being open about education and sex education. And I know that that can be very controversial, right? I work with the Underground, which is an amazing organization. It's a church organization throughout the entire state of Connecticut. They work with all sorts of churches, and they come together, and they're not necessarily comfortable talking about the sex part of it, right? But that's okay. That's okay. There's other people who are. So they came together and they made us these really great rapid response bags. And again, it was a community effort that did it. And those bags were given out to kids who are at higher risk for trafficking. And there was all sorts of resources, but they weren't comfortable putting in that sex education piece. But someone else on our team of people who was thinking about this said, I work at a hospital and I would like to provide those resources. So we were still able to get those out there. And that's why being a collaborative effort is so, so important, right? Having one person stand up and say, I was able to save someone from human trafficking isn't going to be what makes a change. So again, if it's okay, I would like to send a link out to someone after over to the HEART page, because they have a great list of some indicators for both labor trafficking as well as sex trafficking. Perfect. Again, there's always, always, always going to be a supply. We're always going to have vulnerable people. We're always going to have children. That supply is always there. And the only way to stop child abuse is to make the demand not okay. Stop saying, oh, they're just having fun, they're just playing, or turning the other way when something happens, or calling someone derogatory names, especially kids, because of promiscuity, making it not okay to sexually assault people, making the discussion something that we're doing is what's going to stop the demand, because we need to stop the social acceptance. So that's, again, just reinforcing why I appreciate so much that you've invited me in tonight so we could start this discussion. So as a community, some things that we can do to prevent trafficking, right, is to kind of, what can we do to work on those vulnerabilities? Can we offer mentoring and coaching in our communities? I know that your community has them, but what else can we do? Is there some after school programs that we could look into? How about internet safety, media safety? Can we reach out to, well, I used Scott Driscoll as my example earlier, but can we reach out to him? Can we have a training that, I know he'll do an online training where parents who aren't able to get transportation in, maybe they could click on a link, right? What can we do? This is where I'd love for people to start the discussion and start thinking about what can we do as a community that we can make improvements. And the community piece is a really, really big part of making positive changes in the lives of children and the lives of victims in general who have been trafficked. But I'm gonna go back to what's happening at home. And the really important part for me tonight is hopefully all of you leave here today talking to your family and making sure that they're that much safer, right? I don't want you to walk out of here going, oh my gosh, like I should be really worried about. Don't do that. Just start having that discussion, right? Start opening your eyes to, wait a second, that person is always working, and I see that, you know, they have bloodshot eyes and they don't seem to care about their job. Is there something more going on here? Talk to your kids, you know, just have your eyes a little bit more open to those signs that I am going to send out. I'm not going to have time for that either. So I'm going to put up here on the screen, this is the National Human Trafficking Hotline number. Please feel free to take a picture if you'd like, but this is a number that we provide to victims. And sometimes you might see people in the community that have black bracelets and it has the trafficking number on it. But this is a national resource. So obviously in Connecticut, there's resources that we can provide, but we are so close to Massachusetts. We can't stop people from literally walking over into Massachusetts. What if something happens to someone we know in Massachusetts, right? Connecticut services might not be able to provide for that child, depending on if, you know, where they're living or where the incident occurred. That's why I do like having this resource, because they can refer out to more local agencies, but on a national level. I provided this to a victim who was arrested for, she hadn't shown up to court. And why hadn't she shown up to court? She was being trafficked at the time. They were able to assist her in getting those re-arrest warrants vacated. And then just as a reminder to everyone here, Department of Children and Families in Connecticut actually does an amazing job with tracking and investigating these the cases of human trafficking, right? I encourage you that if you have concerns of child abuse, neglect, if you're a mandated reporter, you have to, but even if you're not a mandated reporter, there is no harm in calling and making that report. and you can be anonymous. That's okay. So their 24-hour care line is up on the screen, and depending on if it is, there are some circumstances where you can also make an online report. If you're not sure, you're not comfortable contacting DCF, that's okay. You have a great law enforcement agency in town if you have concerns about someone. And in fact, I know a lot of the local agencies have kids that run away a lot. That's one of the signs that law enforcement sees. And we might refer them to DCF and say, we have concerns that they may be at risk or vulnerable to. And it will start them getting services and support and help. There are other agencies, Love 146, for example, has an amazing program where they'll come out and they'll talk to those vulnerable kids, and they might even set them up with a mentorship program. So there's supports out there. Your law enforcement agencies know what those are. I'm always available to help point people in the right direction. But just knowing that those are out there and they are available, and we have been trying to get these out to communities as much as possible. And if you just have some mental health concerns, or the victims, obviously, trauma in the brain, right? Trauma does a lot to your brain. So I believe very, very strongly and encourage positive mental health and mental health care. So 211 is an amazing resource that we all have available to us in the state of Connecticut. I could tell you from personal experience that calling 211 from this area of town, you might get sent over to Massachusetts, but that's okay. They will transfer you. But they'll even do rapid responses for families who are in crisis in the moment. So a lot of great resources that we have available to us. And I did promise to provide you, so small, but I can email this out as well. Here's some of the resources that are my go-to, and I constantly try to update and make sure that I'm updated on materials and statistics. Here's some of those places where you can get that. Blue Campaign, for example, you can go on and order free flyers to put out throughout the community. You could go on to the State of Connecticut site and see some of the statistics around the state. But again, I want you all to know that we are one of the more progressive states as far as human trafficking is concerned. We would like to stay on top of it and hopefully get rid of it, right? That would be an amazing goal. And we can't do that without the support of our community. So I thank you all so much for giving me a few minutes to speak today. I'm happy to stay a little bit if anyone has questions or wants any additional information. I apologize for such a quick crash course, but I am gonna email the chief and get the list of resources as well as some of the indicators out to all of you. So thank you again.
Thank you, Suzanne. Does anybody have any questions before she leaves? Councilor Ludwig.
I'll be very brief. So, may I call you Sue?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Those links, Chief, will they be on hopefully the police website, or are they already there?
The access to the information is available.
Right.
I will send all the links to all of you as a town council email.
Yep. Many of them are available. So Connecticut DCF, and type in HART for Human Anti-Trafficking Response Team. They have a lot of links. In fact, this resource slide, I think that came out of their presentation, but they have links to each of these. Some of the websites have free online trainings that you can do, with your family or by yourself. There's also some really great documentaries out there, and some that are referenced on their site as well.
I just want to thank you for doing. This is great, and I think this is one we all should be on the same page on. This is an easy one, I think, when it comes to certainly protecting children. So thank you for everything you do, because I know that your work has done some research. So great program. I also want to thank the town manager. Again, we've talked about this, I think, for about 6 months, and so thank you for bringing Sue. I think it's a town. At the very least, the good news, hopefully it's not happening in our town, but we certainly can't have our head in the sand and think that it couldn't. And I think the point you made, and the reason why for me I wanted is the highway, right? So it's easy access by coming down 91, going past Enfield, and our location's our strength, but also our locations, can be used against us.
If I could give you food for thought on that. I don't want you to think just because we're Enfield and we have a highway, right? Because we all, I'm speaking for all of us, and I probably shouldn't, but the majority of us, I bet, have the internet. We
Right.
all
Fair.
have the highway in our own homes.
Yeah, fair.
So that's the reason that I think this education is so important to everyone.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ungar.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you for coming. It's very important information. Quick question. I've seen videos, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I've seen where victims will flash an open and closed hand in public, and that's like a signal for help. Is that true or false?
I've seen those videos as well, and I can't say for sure, right? What I could say is that if you're a victim, that there is support out there. And we do know that victims on average return, and I apologize, I don't remember if it's 7 or 8 times, but they return back to the life about as often as a domestic violence victim returns, right? Again, trauma does so many things to you. If you're a victim, please don't expect that flashing your hand is going to be what gets you support, because we're sitting here asking that of each other. Maybe somebody knows it, maybe somebody doesn't, right? Years ago, people used to say if you call and order a pizza when you call 911, if you say pepperoni and things like that, we keep saying, please don't do that. If you need the support, let people know you need the support and why. So if somebody does it, I wouldn't say turn the other way and say we don't do that, but I think really reaching out for the right support, and we're fortunate enough to have those supports here in Connecticut. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Pisner.
You said one thing that really resonated with me. I mean, I have a grandchild who's 7. School. I wish our Board of Ed would maybe look at this and maybe talk to them. And you said that you have people that go into schools.
Yeah.
I would love to see that happen.
Yep.
I don't know how it can happen, Chief, or whatever, but that resonates with me. We need our young people to understand that there's help out there if they are being trafficked, abused, abducted. So if there's some way we can correlate that, I would greatly appreciate that. But thank you for coming. Great.
Thank you. And I want to say HEART has a training that can be provided to educators as well as students. And then even if it's like you're feeling like I really want to talk to my 7-year-old grandchild and this isn't happening fast enough, NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, has some really great online videos that are designed for elementary age kids, as well as ones that are designed for high schoolers. So again, you might want to pre-screen before you just sit your child down. But
maybe something within the PTOs too.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
something in the PTOs. But thank you again.
And that's what I love about this is the community starting to talk about it and thinking of what else we can do.
You'll be pleased to know the first part of this, but perhaps troubled by the second part of it. Last year, we did bring Scott Driscoll in through ETC for a presentation that was available townwide on internet safety, safety for children along these lines. Not for lack of effort, because it was pretty well advanced within the community. The part that will disappoint you, because frankly, it was a little disappointing to us, is it was not well received. I strike that. It was not well attended within the community. So I guess I give with one hand as I take with the other. I'm pleased that we did make it available with the subject matter expert, I think it's fair to say, within the state. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't gain a lot of traction.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Nelson.
If we could put on the town website just something as simple as, do you know if your child is being trafficked or being stalked to be trafficked? Check these signs. Because a lot of parents don't know. And with the internet and the phones and everything, we didn't grow up with that. And we don't know the signs. And as simple as we can make this for a parent to be like, oh, what is that? Hit it. And then you never know. They may say, oh, my God. And I saw videos today where parents actually caught their children and went through with it with strangers. And when the child was caught in the person's car and stuff, the parents were in the back of the car. And these parents, when they were first confronted about this, they were like, my child would never do that. And these kids did it. I mean, it's eye-opening because none of us are safe from these predators. And I think simple is better, and I think it should be on the town website, even if it directs it to the police department's website, just to get the information out there, I think would be huge.
I think that's a great idea, and I think links to other sites, like you said. So some of the resources that are on the screen right now, or I apologize, I minimized it a little, but some of the resources that are available do have, like I said, some handouts and some probably like the best way we could do the wording to not scare people off, because it's a scary topic. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Do I have a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
Second.
Councilor Mangini, second by Councilor Unger. All in favor? It's unanimous. Meeting is adjourned. We will be starting the regular town council meeting. Time is 7:15. We will start off with the prayer by Councilor Pisner.
I had a prayer today all set, and then I got news of the passing of a devoted high school teacher, David Cottaropoli. I grew up with David. I know his family well. He was 61 years old and taken from us too soon. I'd like us all today to bow our heads in his remembrance, to give our condolence and sympathies to his family, his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and his students. Amen.
Sheila, roll call, please.
Councilor Pisner?
Here.
Councilor Santinella?
Here.
Councilor Ungary?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sakala?
Here.
Mayor Corsati?
Here.
Councilor Despard?
Here.
Councilor Finger?
Here.
Councilor Hopkins?
Here.
Councilor Ludwig?
Here.
Councilor Mangini?
Here.
And Councilor Nelson?
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
Okay, the fire evacuation announcement. In the event of a fire, there are exits in the back of the chambers, and to my left and the audience's right, exit through the doors and go downstairs into the parking lot. Next, the minutes of preceding meetings. Do I have a motion to accept the meetings on the minutes for the special meeting on September 18th, 2023? Councilor Mangini, and a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. All in favor? Against? Opposed? Okay. Abstentions? 11 in favor. Do I have a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of September 18th, 2023? Deputy Mayor Sakala, and a second by Councilor Mangini. By raise of hands, all in favor? Unanimous, 11-0. Next, do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the special meeting on September 20th, 2023? It's Councilor Mangini, and a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. All in favor?
Bob, quick question, sorry.
Yeah.
Before we approve, sorry. I just want Sheila, if I could, for the mayor to Sheila, I know there's a question on a bunch of information that was supposed to be in the minutes on, if we could, Sheila has an explanation.
So the official record of the minutes have the assessor's presentation appended to the minutes, as well as all of the information given to me from the Board of Assessment Appeals, all of their notes and information. It's about 2 inches thick of information, so we did not provide it to the council in their packets tonight, but it is online, and it is also in the Board of Assessment, the minutes of the town for the town council meeting. Okay?
Correct.
Thank you. I just want to make sure
Yes.
publicly she acknowledged that, so thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Sheila.
Yep. I was going to mention that, and that's perfect. Okay. All in favor? It's unanimous, 11-0. And lastly, do I have a motion to accept the special meeting minutes from the September 26, 2023? So Councilor Mangini, and a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. All in favor? Unanimous, 11-0. Next up, a special guest. It's my pleasure to introduce Kathleen Segivny from the Enfield Food Shelf as our special guest. A week after celebrating the 55th anniversary with them, there was a nice little event that we had last week, and welcome.
Thank you so much to the mayor and the town council members for giving us time. As you all know, I can talk forever, so I'll try to keep it very short and sweet today. My name is Kathleen Subany, as the mayor had just said, and I'm the executive director.
Excuse me,
just a button. Okay. So I'm the executive director for the Enfield Food Shelf. As the mayor just mentioned, we just celebrated our 55th anniversary and opened officially our new facility. Thank you so much for all the members who were able to attend. For those of you who weren't, please do stop by and see our new facility. With me today, I have Lainey LeBrun. She's our outreach coordinator. This is a new position for Enfield Food Shelf. Many of you may have seen Lainey out and about in the community, both providing education as well as outreach at many, many events, trying to ensure that people know that we're available for emergency needs as well as chronic needs and the different types of services that we are able to provide. Lainey is passing out to you right now our newest resource package. That includes all of the different types of things that are available. As you can see on the front page, if you haven't been to our facility, it looks very, very different than what you might envision. It is really a very small grocery store, and people have carriages, can walk around and choose what they need for their families. Our facility is also open for a variety of other resources, such as basic needs, and we have home deliveries and things like that. Also included in that is going to be an impact sheet that shows you for last year the impact that we had. We distributed about 630,000 pounds of food, which is the meals equivalent of 525,000 plus meals to the community. We serve more than 2,700 people, and we do about 352 annual food distributions across all of our different programs. If you look at the second page of that sheet, you can see that we have a lot of different frequencies with which our programs are distributed, whether they're weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. There are some daily distributions, especially for children, and we have the additional distributions through different summer meals programs, as well as our before and after school snacks and our summer camp snacks as well. We do deliveries now for people who are homebound or have other transportation issues. Lainey's also going to pass out to you our comfort kits. So those are a new thing that we are creating for both cold and warm weather for displaced individuals. This is an example of how we don't always just distribute directly to someone. We also distribute through a variety of other sources, such as the police department, the fire department, social services, the warming centers, and things like that. We have satellite pantries over at social services and work very closely with them to ensure that we are able to reach and fill all the different needs that Enfield has. Some of the other programs that we have besides our weekly food and basic needs assistance are our commodity supplemental food program, which is for seniors 60 and older. That does include home delivery as well, and it's basically, to qualify, you need to be at 130% of federal poverty. As I mentioned, we have our before and after school snack programs. We have a mobile food share in our parking lot bi-weekly on Fridays. It's open to anyone from 11:30 to 12. We also have our emergency outreach and satellite pantries, home deliveries, our summer lunch link, and our 5 meals program. Our 5 meals program is really geared toward our young families here in town who may be just on the cusp of needing food assistance, and it's an education program where we bring the person who is in need and referred to us through either the school system, social services, or other sources for a tour. We work with UConn to create 5 different meals that we distribute to the person at that time, and they also have the ability to get the groceries that we're being distributed that week. That's about $150 value, and our message through that program is not only to educate, but also to remind people that it's a very smart financial decision, especially when you don't have a lot of resources that are available, to seek out food assistance. And please do come to us, even if it's intermittently at a time when you have a higher need, say you need tires on your car or something like that. Come to us for a week or two to save that money, to be sure that you can afford those really necessary items for yourself. The comfort kits, as you can see, have a variety of different things in there, and we work collaboratively with different companies. These kits that you're looking at happen to be created by the Women's Club, so we use that as an opportunity to bring in different resources, whether I think Farm Credit East has done them for us, and a number of local companies have done that. We are doing that in response to the cold weather planning meetings, where we were found out that the police department especially was looking for things that they could easily keep in their trunk to be able to distribute out to people that they met on the street when there was an immediate need. So this is how we were able to bring something together to provide that for the community and for those in need. We're continually trying to work with other agencies, organizations, and to look for partnerships and collaborations that can help to bring things like those comfort kits to our community to make everyone's life here in Enfield a little easier and a little more pleasant. We have a lot of different things that we are providing, whether it's basic needs or toiletries, things like that. So I encourage everyone who is interested to please come and visit us. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities as well. Certainly anyone on the council is welcome to come over for a tour at any time. And I would especially encourage anyone here or anyone who's listening, if you find that you hear of someone who's struggling or hear of someone who is in a traumatic situation, please encourage them that it's a smart decision to come to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathleen. I applaud you. First of all, to you and your volunteers and everybody and your staff, you are to be commended for all the work that you do for all the residents who are, with our food insecurities. So just want to say thank you once again. You know that I'm a frequent flyer over there. I come down and visit all the time, and a proud supporter of that program. Questions, anybody? Councilor Mangini.
Thank you, Kathleen, and to all your staff. I know you and I have a history. We go a few years back when you were not in your new facility. It's beautiful, and you are servicing our community to its fullest and magnificently, and I just want to say thank you. If it not for the hard work that you and your volunteers and staff are doing, our town would not be in such good condition. So we're very, very fortunate and lucky that we have you at the helm. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. It is a true community effort. I always tell people, because I work with different pantries across the state, and I'm lucky enough to also go to national, be selected for the state of Connecticut to go to national seminars. And it's very clear and evident that what I do cannot be done in many communities. It is the town of Enfield, it's the power of the town of Enfield and everyone here that causes us to have such a great pantry. So I appreciate that too.
Well, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. I'm glad that you were able to come. I'm glad that we were able to have you as our guest tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Yeah, I didn't see your hand up.
That's all right, yeah. It's short. Ties in a way.
Good evening, and thank you very much. Question I got for you is, our union used to donate, some money during the holidays, which is Local 1029, the Department of Public Works Employees Union here. But we were always told to donate some money because I might have a dollar that I can go to the grocery store with and buy 1 item, when you can take that dollar and buy 10 items. Does that still hold?
It does still hold, but I would say we can buy 5 instead
okay.
of 10 right now in the current economic status. And it does allow us to get items in bulk that we might not otherwise get. We so appreciate all the donations for things that people purchase individually because it gives us a lot of variety on our shelves as well. But certainly monetary does have a lot more power for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I
Appreciate it. Thank
appreciate
you.
the time and your questions.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will be moving on to public communications and petitions. Once again, I'm going to be cautioning members of the public to observe decorum when addressing the council tonight. Just remind everybody that you're going to have 5 minutes to address the council. Just please state your name and address. Please refrain from personal attacks. That means attacks against councilors, attacks against staff, attacks against town employees. I am not going to be allowing for that. This is not a forum to air your grievances or to discuss our employees, our counselors. I've had enough of that. I'm not interested with the election 1 month away. I'm not interested in having this segment of our agenda being politicized. I'm not even giving any warnings. I will end public communications tonight. I am not going to be putting up with any behaviors that are not going to be acceptable tonight. Just not putting up with it tonight. So is there anybody that would like to address the council tonight? George?
Good evening, George Young, 8 Holly Lane. It seems like just yesterday that I was here to ask numerous questions regarding the 23-24 water pollution control budget, which I understand is being worked on, but there has been no response yet. One of my questions last month was the use of ARPA funds to pay for the repair of the first 2 pump stations. I asked about the transfer of those ARPA funds of $3.5 million to pay for repairs within which the taxpayers voted to approve a referendum to pay for them by borrowing money and paying interest. Since the ARPA funds came to town without loan repayment and interest-free, how is this handled in the finance department? Are the taxpayers still paying interest on the loan, or have we borrowed less and not paying interest? Even without this, I mentioned last month that I felt the interest was overstated for the first 4 years. These funds were borrowed for a specific purpose, and along came the ARPA monies, which the town used to take care of the repairs. We should hear from the council what their exact plans are, because the taxpayer should not be on the hook for $3.5 million or paying interest on that portion of the loan. Transparency is paramount to trust. We want to keep our sewer usage fee as low as possible. Perhaps the interest cost for the WPC for 23-24 should even be lower than the amount shown in the budget. Last year, we approved a referendum for EMS and police station addition, and it would probably be great to get an updated status on that. Last month, I also suggested that the town charter probably should be changed to .0001 times the town's current grand list to lower the amount the council can approve for payment for a project without going to referendum. That is something the Charter Committee should consider after the next election. After listening to the BAA and the assessors meeting last week, it seems that the assessor has taken an aggressive stance to increase the grand list, for which the council would get a benefit by increasing the amount of their ability to spend. I'm not saying whether he was right or wrong, but the fact is the grand list is going higher and higher. I would like to see what the grand list was when the last charter was adopted to limit the spending to at .0002, and what the dollar amount that the council could spend without our approval, what it was then, as compared to today's grand list and its dollar amount. Any thoughts? I know the council would not be in favor of reducing it, but maybe it's time for the Charter Committee to look at it again. For those that missed it, the council had a special meeting last Tuesday, September 26th, following the special Board of Education meeting, and voted to approve resolution number 6720 by a vote of 10-1, and thank you, Michael, for voting against it, to establish a school modernization pre-referendum committee. Their hope is to get the referendum on the ballot by November 2024 for approval by the voters. This would modernize PK-5 schools and consolidate, renovate, or eliminate some schools and to build others. We are probably looking at another $100 million of expenditures for less than 2,500 students, all of which would not be reimbursable by the state of Connecticut if approved. And that's without the HVAC system or the cost of changes needed for school security. I'm not sure seniors can continue to afford this mill rate expansion. The separate upgrading of the HVAC to include air conditioning is to be discussed and most likely approved tonight, as the council gives its consent to apply for the fiscal 24 HVAC indoor air quality grant. The council has an opportunity to control the mill rate for today's seniors and those that will be seniors before the next referendum is submitted. The seniors do not ask for a lot, but we are paying a lot, and there needs to be some constraints on the spending of the council. The council sold Noah Webster School, and today it sits idle with minimum tax dollars coming in. Will that also be the case with Memorial School and Prudence Crandall School after they are closed? It's time for the council to look at freezing the taxes for seniors and to raise the exemption for seniors and veterans. Most of us seniors do not have children in the school system, so we need some relief from that burden. Without some of these concessions, we seniors should vote no for this next referendum project. We paid for the original schools back in the 70s and 80s to educate our children and now need some relief of our own. One further note, as I came in tonight, Ellen gave me a package which will probably answer some of my questions from the previous meeting, and I appreciate the work that she did and the finance director, John. So hopefully many of my answers will come out of what they gave me tonight. We'll see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Lucian Lefebvre, 54 Kimberly Drive, Enfield, also chairman of the Enfield Veterans Council. Here to announce and invite the public to our Veterans Day Parade. Our parade this year is going to be held on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. It's going to be held on Saturday, November 11th at 11 a.m. Again, along with the change in day, there's a change in time. The normal time was step off at 1 o'clock. We're stepping off at 11 o'clock. The parade begins at the Enfield Street School and heads north on Enfield Street up to the Enfield Town Hall and the Town Green. Immediately following the parade, there's a wreath-laying ceremony on the Town Green. And in case of inclement weather, we will be utilizing the Enfield High School to do an indoor thing. And again, you may be asking why the change in the day and time this year. The number 11 has a special meaning dating back to World War I. On November 11th, 1918, the Allies and Germany signed an armistice. The ceasefire took effect at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. It's not often we get to use the 11-11-11. So this year we chose to make a change to our normal protocol and do it on Saturday the 11th at 11 o'clock. President Woodrow Wilson declared November 11th would be celebrated at Armistice Day with parades and public meetings and a 2-minute pause of business at 11 o'clock. In 1954, Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day. So I hope to see a lot of the public along Route 5 to wish our veterans well, support us, and Any groups or organizations that would like to participate in the parade can contact me at 860-463-7168 or Vice Chairman Tony Torres at 860-394-9973. Again, those phone numbers are 860-463-7168 and 860-394-9973. And I look forward to seeing all the friendly faces from the dais up there. I know there may be some changes in faces with the election happening, but whoever is in the mix, please attend the Veterans Day Parade. We always look forward to having the support of the council and the Enfield community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lucian.
Good evening. Pam Townsend, 54 Kimberly Drive. I'm here tonight to talk about REITs across America. A little bit early, although REITs happens all year long. The American Legion Auxiliary John Micholik Unit 154 will once again host this year's ceremony. But before I begin, please accept the gratitude of Unit 154 and Enfield's veterans to everyone that supported last year's ceremony and all past ceremonies. Because of our community, we were in the top 5 groups for Connecticut for REITs sponsorship last year, second to the Connecticut Veterans Cemetery in Middletown. That's saying something, Enfield. And using the food shelf's words, power in community. Couldn't have said it better. Because of you, we covered 100% of the veteran graves at St. Patrick's Cemetery, and we're well on our way to do it again this year. And we were able to place some at St. Adelbert's, one at the 9/11 Memorial located at Fire Station 1, and donated 48 to the Daughters of the American Revolution to place at Enfield Street Cemetery. And by the way, the DAR placed 24 wreaths at Old King Street and 30 wreaths at Old Hazardville Cemetery, honoring 100% of the veterans of both cemeteries. So basically, at 3 different cemeteries, 100% of our Enfield's veterans were honored. As always, our goal is to place a wreath at every veteran interned here in Enfield, so there's still work to be done. Your wreath sponsorship will make that happen. Each year, a new theme is chosen to help volunteers focus on the REITs Across America message. This year's theme is Serve and Succeed. Enfield does a fantastic job of serving and succeeding. This theme is bridged from last year's theme, Find a Way to Serve. The 2023 National REITs Across America Day is on December 16th. Our ceremony takes place at St. Patrick's Cemetery and begins at 12 p.m. The ceremony is free and open to the public. Chairs will not be provided, but you are welcome to bring your own. And keep in mind that St. Patrick's Cemetery does not have a parking lot, and attendees are asked to arrive early and respectfully park within the cemetery. Some of the roads will be blocked for the ceremony. And we definitely need volunteers to help place wreaths this year. To sponsor, volunteer, or ask for information, go to our Facebook page, Enfield, Connecticut-REITs Across America, or you may email me at enfieldwaa@yahoo.com. The deadline for sponsorship is November 28th for online and November 23rd for mail-in. Once again, we have fundraising groups that support our location. Each group receives $5 back for sponsored wreaths, which supports our mission and helps fund theirs. Fundraising group links are displayed on the Enfield, Connecticut REITs Across America Facebook page. There are other ways to sponsor It's pretty intense, but please contact me at the email enfieldwaa@yahoo.com for the information. There will also be a display at the Enfield Central Library beginning on November 1st. It'll have pictures of past ceremonies and information on this year's ceremony and sponsorship. Before I close, I would like to share a story we often don't realize about Enfield and the impact that it has on Wreaths Across America at the National Wreaths Across America headquarters. Over the summer, I was contacted by National Wreaths Across America headquarters public relations. They wanted to come here and do a story on the people that supported Wreaths Across America here in Enfield. Unfortunately, due to scheduling challenges, we ended up doing a radio interview. I was honored to be interviewed by Karen Worcester, the co-founder and executive director of Wreaths Across America. The interview can be heard on iHeartRadio or the Wreaths Across America Mission Matters program on their website or on our Facebook page, Enfield, Connecticut Wreaths Across America. I hope you take a moment to listen to it, and thank you for your time and support. I look forward to seeing everyone on December 16th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin?
Not that often people know my name right out, especially in the chambers here, so. So good evening, everyone. My name is David Martin. I reside at 14 Eland Street here in town. Been there for 27 years, but a lifelong resident of Enfield. My wife and I have raised 2 grown children. Christopher just turned 25 the other day. And Nicholas, he is 23. He's a cadet at the Air Force Academy and was just informed last week that he received a pilot slot upon graduation. So he's also, to our knowledge, the first Enfield High graduate to go to the Air Force Academy. So thought I'd share that information with the council here today. So with that said, thank you. So I guess I'd like to start a second thing by bringing to your attention part of Town of Enfield zone and regulation. So section 7.10.7. Said section states in relevant part that no land shall be graded or paved unless provisions have been made for the proper disposal of drainage water, particularly from areas contiguous to property lines and from low areas which tend to collect water. I'm here to discuss 2 Parsons Road. This parcel of land abuts the rear of my property. It was purchased a couple of years ago by Parsons Road Farm LLC, also known as owned by Owen Jarmack and Jarmack Farms. As soon as the Jarmacks purchased this land, he removed dozens of trees, saplings, and years of vegetation directly behind my house. Hopefully you can see this. This is the vegetation I'm referring to, just a bunch of trees. Everyone knows what trees looks like. He then regraded the land for the purpose of growing a couple more acres of tobacco on that land. Now, by removing all the trees, vegetation, and by regrading the land, Jarmack created a catch basin that funnels directly behind our house, which in turn dumps tens of thousands of gallons of pesticide-treated soil and water into our yard every single time it rains. If that's not bad enough, the potentially contaminated water then leaves our yard as a rushing river and flows into the street. Then in turn, it goes into the catch basins and into the Connecticut River. I actually have photos that show the color of the pesticide that's running into our roads and our street. And the reason why I have this, not common for me to catch pictures of this, but it was because the day before the last rain, not this past weekend, but prior to, they had just recently put down pesticides, and it all came down into my yard. Prior to Jarmac purchasing this land, we had never had any issues with any water in our yard. Through our own attorney, we have reached out to the Jarmacs, but they have refused to do anything about it, the continued issues we are having. In fact, Attorney Derek Donnelly, who represents owner Owen Jarmac, responded that while my clients did remove trees from the property, at no point did they change the grade of the land abutting his client's property. If that, and I quote, at no point did they change the grade of the land abutting your client's property. If that's the case, if they didn't regrade the land, what exactly are they doing with this bulldozer in this picture right behind my house? Attorney Donnelly continued to state in the email that they remain willing to work with your client to prevent future issues and are open to hearing whatever suggestion your clients may have. Well, we have attempted to reach out to Owen Jarmac on numerous occasions, and he refuses to respond or even acknowledge the issue he has created. Because of what the Jarmac farm has done and continues to do, it has destroyed my vinyl fence, my shed plus its contents, a pool filter, as well as my landscape yard. Parts of my backyard actually have tobacco leaves growing in it right now. It actually has become a tobacco farm in its own. So I guess I could ask for a tax rate of farming, maybe. The water has actually rendered my shed as completely useless, and now I have to keep all my yard equipment in the garage. And there's a nice, lovely picture of my shed and all its equipment with about 4 inches of mud that went in between the walls and under the door.
Excuse me, Dave.
Yes.
5 minutes are up, but you can come back, okay?
Okay. I have literally 1 minute left, if I may, or should I go back?
I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, thank you. If what I have already described to you isn't bad enough, this past weekend we had 4 to 6 inches of water seep into our basement through the cut in the concrete slab where the house was connected to the town sewer system. In 27 years of living at this house, we have never had water in our basement. This was caused directly by the Jarmacs and their unwillingness to address the flooding issues that he has caused. The Jarmacs have not been very good corporate or community citizens. Our ask of all of you today is to enforce the zoning regulation mentioned above, and to also ensure that this contaminated mud and water don't continue to go into our sewers and rivers. Thank you, and if I may ask to, can I add these photos to exhibits to today's council meeting?
Absolutely, Dave.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Do I provide them to?
No, you're going to give them to...
Pamela Pasha, 8 Weymouth Road. I'm here tonight for 2 reasons. My first thing I wanted to address was a suggestion for some kind of announcement, like regarding these town meetings and other things. The young lady earlier tonight was a perfect example of, getting information out to the town. Placards, maybe, when there's town meetings going to be being held, like we put out for the taxes to be collected. For people who, I have an uncle who's 90 who lived in this town his whole life and raised his family, not internet savvy. I feel like we depend too much on people being notified about things on the internet, Facebook, other things where not everybody, I even have a son-in-law who's 30 that, is never on his phone. And I think, really? Everybody's always on their phone. But just thinking of that, and like the gentleman earlier tonight was saying about the program that was offered to the town, but it was poorly attended. And my thought was, if there had been maybe placards placed at school entrances for the audiences that were being targeted to attend this particular event, or at the library, the public library, because I'm always there with my grandson, and there's always lots of parents and their kids there too, and it just makes sense to target your audience and to get that information out there, and just little plastic signs, or even the street sign across the street that has Enfield Loaves and Fishes on it right now. So that's my first suggestion. My second one is more of a statement. I live on Weymouth Road, up at the top near Route 5, near Astros. And I've lived there since I was about 7 years old in the same house. And I'm sure, just like many other parts of town, our road has changed immensely over the years. My biggest problem with it right now and in recent years is the traffic with trucks. Mullen Road has a mulch company over there, and I'm not too sure why, but a lot of dump trucks and the big tractor-trailer trucks that carry the mulch and other tractor-trailer trucks are always going up and down Weymouth. I know years ago, and I'm not up to speed on this issue, but I know years ago certain roads could have trucks and others couldn't. I don't know. I know when I was younger, long time ago, that trucks didn't come up and down Weymouth, but they do now. And I don't know if I notice it more because I'm more concerned because I have a 4-year-old grandson at my house every day. My neighbor has 3-year-old twins across the street. But they're coming up over that hill doing 50, 60 miles an hour. They start at the light and head down Weymouth towards Steele the same way. Not just the trucks, but also pickup trucks and cars and whatnot. We have cars over there that have, I've actually, I'm embarrassed, but I've called the police department thinking that somebody was shooting at 10 o'clock at night, and it's not. It's someone's muffler on their car. And I did look up the ordinance, and it's illegal to have those mufflers on cars. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of police presence that I see anyway over on that end of town. Several years ago, I was told by a police officer that the presence is needed more here in this area of town, so they can only spread it so thin. In any event, my concern is the speeding by these dump trucks and the tractor-trailer trucks, and that stoplight is right there. Right next to it is Astros Plaza, and the end business in that plaza is a daycare. And right on the end of that brick building is the play yard for the daycare, which is maybe 15, 20 feet from the road. That is only blocked off by a chain link fence and some shrubs. And one of these days, if we're not careful, it's going to be a tragedy. Something needs to be done about the speed on that road. And the speed limit's 35. People are easily doing 50 and 60 miles an hour up and down that road. So that's all. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Melanie Dubiel, 4 Francis Avenue. So you guys are probably, actually, first thing I'd like to say is I'd like to say rest in peace to Cardo, too. He truly was an amazing person, and both of my kids had him as teachers, and they loved him. So I hope he rests in peace. You guys are probably as tired as I am of coming to the meetings and you seeing us here. But I just wanted to let you know, again, Pizza Palace, Jimmy's Pub is having a big Halloween party with a live DJ, which everything's on hold because of the court proceedings. But I'm not sure if anybody got my videos that I sent earlier this afternoon. This was last weekend, and it showed how people were hanging around and talking before and after they got into the bar. It also shows on the second video of how they hang around and are still throwing trash, beer cans in the street and in our yards. They truly do not have any regard to our quality of life. Mind you, this is all happening between 10 and 2 at Jimmy's. Ken Bednar was out that night in the parking lot, so he did see it, and he did come out and pick up the beer can that was thrown in my parents' yard. But the second video, if you watch, you can see gentlemen that they're out there loud and yelling and having conversations, and I believe it was probably like a minute and a half to 2 minutes, maybe longer, of them just sitting there talking very loudly. And again, our bedroom windows are right on Francis Avenue, so another video is 2 girls came out of Jimmy's pub and walked down the street, and they were having a conversation right in front of our house, which, again, my bedroom window was right on Francis Avenue. And they're screaming, making all these loud noises, honestly sounded like animals. And again, it was another time that Ken happened to come out in the parking lot, and he ended up coming out about 2 minutes later to after their conversations and asked them to be quiet and be respectful of the neighbors. But it took him coming out and us already being awoken. So my husband has to work sometimes at 7 o'clock in the morning on the weekends. He shouldn't have to be woken up to this, and neither should we. It doesn't seem like Ken comes out and he patrols his parking lots or the street only after I've come up here and complained, and it's not right. He doesn't come out any other times, but when I come up here and complain, then the next weekend he's out. But again, people are already waking us up. They're being very loud. So by the time he comes down there and tells them to be respectable, it's too late. My whole entire house is already awakened. So I'm not sure if you guys got the videos or not. But again, all we're asking is that you give us the 120 days that we gave Jimmy's Pub and just try residents-only parking. And let's just see where that goes. If there's no more problems, we found the solution. If not, then we come back to the table and we sit down again and try to figure something out. But it's every single weekend that we're still being awoken up. And it's getting very frustrating. And I honestly, if I don't have to come to another meeting and complain about this, I would be very happy. So please just consider the 120-day, or even until the court hearing is all set. Until the court case is Superior Court. Let's just try it, give it a shot, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Nikki Price, 1324 Enfield Street. First, I'd like to thank the town attorney for answering my FOI very timely and quickly. I appreciate it. I still have a question, though, which I will send to you. I started to read the town charter because after watching the Zoom interview between the town manager and attorney Mario Carpel regarding the town manager's qualifications, she stated that she was mayor of Bristol for 2 years term. It was a strong mayoral form of government as CEO of the town. Then she stated that, which is the exact same job as town manager within Enfield system form of government. And then she stated the mayor's role is a weak position within the town charter. The mayor only presides over the town council and is a ceremonial role. Now, that's why I started reading the town charter. So I'd like to begin with Chapter 5, the town manager, appointment and removal. Yes, she is correct. She is chief executive officer for the town of Enfield, but the role of town manager is clearly defined in the town charter as to the authority they have and not. The town manager reports to the town council. The town council does not report to the town manager. Now, the mayor's role is ceremonial and it provides over meetings, but it does not mean, as a council member, their vote is any less than the other members of the council. Now, what I thought was very interesting was Chapter 3, the Town Council, Section 8, Investigation. The council shall have the power to investigate any and all departments, offices, and agencies of the town, and for such purposes shall have the power to issue subpoenas. At the request of the council, any judge may issue a capias for the appearance of witnesses and the production of books and papers. Now, being an elected member of the town of Enfield is more than just a volunteer. Now, I would like to read Chapter 3, the Town Council. The council. There shall be a town council consisting of 11 members, hereinafter referred to as the council, the members of which shall serve without compensation except for the reimbursement of actual expenses incurred in the performance of official duties for 2 years. So I think you do have a little stipend there. It might not be much, but it is more than just being a volunteer. Thank you, and have a great day.
Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
Robert Bukowski, 21 Francis. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Have a slightly different take on things tonight, but the result's the same. The objective is the same. There's a Halloween party scheduled for this Sunday, October 7th at Jimmy's Pub. One ad I saw had DJ and dancing. The other was karaoke and dancing. So I contacted Lori Witten and Rick Rochelle to see if anything could be done about it, because it's a violation of the cease and desist order that is presently in effect. So I received a response from Lori, and Ellen was CC'd as well. I'll try to read it, and I'll try to read the response into the town record. If not, if Ellen could do it. If I have time, I'll do it. So, based on what Lori said, in effect, the ZEO has his hands tied until this court case is over. That means DJ and live band entertainment violations will not be enforced until the court case is over. DJ and live band entertainment violations will not be enforced until the court case is over. Also, as we all know, the parking ban has been lifted. So, I encourage every 21-year-old in Enfield to come to Jimmy's Pub this Saturday. Make this Saturday the biggest barroom party that Enfield has ever seen. Fill up the streets, park everywhere. And again, entertainment violations are unenforceable until the duration of for the duration of the court proceedings. Entertainment violations are unenforceable for the duration of the court proceedings. I'll see you at the next town council meeting so we can discuss how things went, and hopefully with 250 neighbors, because that's what this is really all about. We had 80 people at the first Jimmy's Pub meeting when this became an issue a year ago, and then 75 of them went home and went to sleep. So if those 80 people, if all the neighborhood came here, this problem would not have lasted for a year. But we got a petition with 26 people, but that's the best we could do. Nothing's going to happen until people start getting aggravated again, and a lot of people show up. So that's what I'm hoping for. Now, if I have time, I'll read what Lori sent to me. All right. And again, Ellen was CC'd. You probably all have seen it. I don't know. Good day. On May 9th, 2023, the property owner served the town with an appeal from the ZBA decision of April 4th, 2023, which was upheld by the zoning enforcement decision. This appeal to Superior Court essentially stays any order that the town has given, dismissing our zoning enforcement officer of any enforcement power. It goes on to discuss the actual name of the lawsuit, doesn't really matter, the name and the docket number. And the final short paragraph is, we have done all we can, we have done all we can do until a court case is finalized. Thank you for your interest, Larry Whitten. So, just let it all happen. There is no parking ban in effect. The entertainment violations will not be enforced. Kids have a great party, and we'll just see how it all works out. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? I declare public communications over. We will move on to councilor communications. I am going to first bring it to Councilor Santinella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to respond or add to the comments by Mr. and Mrs. Martin and the neighbors regarding Eland Street. I met the Martins about a couple of years ago when the flooding issue started to become intolerable, and I actually have 2 videos that I would just like to show you what happens at their house when it rains. Alex, I think you have 2 of them. This is their backyard. Alex, we can go to the next one, which sort of highlights what's going on the street. And so the water runs down and literally crests over the top of the road into the sewer system, and all of that silt runs into the road. Okay, thanks, Alex. I was in the neighborhood on Saturday and found the Martins in their basement with 6 inches of water. And I have tried everything that I know to try to get this problem rectified. We have been to the state, we've been to DEEP, so I don't know what more I can do. And when I saw the Martins in the situation they were in, I said, I think it's time for you to just bring this to the public, to public comment, and to share this with the rest of the council. Across the street from Mr. and Mrs. Martin is Mrs. LaValle. I've known her since I was 5 because I went to kindergarten with her daughter. Up the street is Mr. and Mrs. O'Sullivan. I went to kindergarten with their daughter, and Mr. and Mrs. Nelson lives on Parsons Road. I went to kindergarten with their son. They are all lifelong residents of Enfield, live on this street, and are very distraught over this situation. And I don't know what more we can do, but we need to do something, because this is intolerable for the Martins and for the people on the street. And so I don't expect an answer tonight, but it is very upsetting that we are having to continue to deal with this with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I empathize with Councilor Santinella's concerns. I mean, I think one of our roles as councilors is to listen to problems like this and bring them to the council to try to get resolution. I believe from a prior matter that was in Councilor Despard's district, I believe there is an ordinance in town that allows the town to deal with emissions. I don't know if water, even water that's full of silt qualifies, but I think that might be worth exploring. But the trick is, as long as, nothing will happen as long as there's an appetite. There isn't an appetite to balance business against the issues of residents. I think that needs to happen. I'll speak a little bit to the Jimmy's Pub issue. There is currently, my understanding, there's a cease and desist order barring any live entertainment at Jimmy's Pub except for karaoke. This advertisement discusses live DJ and a huge party. I don't think residents are unreasonable in bringing these concerns. This is exactly what they were worried about, given unfortunately, prior bad faith by the business owner. We have to be able to enforce the rules in town regardless of who you are, what you own, how big of a business, or how small of a business you have or are. I think it's clearly the interpretation offered by Ms. Witten, and thank you for sending me that email. The interpretation offered by Ms. Witten, I think, is wrong. I would ask through the mayor to the town attorney what the conclusion on that is. I believe the statute that allows you to appeal to the Superior Court says explicitly that the appeal by itself doesn't stay the order. There has to be some kind of other order that's requested. I don't see any in the court case, and I don't believe the Board of Zoning Appeals has currently issued an order, but I would make that request now, whether maybe an update during the later section of the meeting. I also want to talk a little bit about trucks. There have been a couple plans floating around to deal with truck traffic in town that's been discussed. There's been legal opinions about it. If you are interested in this, please contact your counselor. My frank impression about this so far is regulating trucks on certain town roads has kind of fizzled. And if you care about that, please reach out to your counselor. I share Mr. Young's concerns about school buildings in town. One of the top 5 complaints that I've had in my district is the school on Brainerd Road, which is currently owned by the owner of Control Module. That maybe wasn't the best sale in that it didn't seem like the business owner had a lot of plans for the building, and it sat underutilized, unused, and really a blight on the local neighborhood. So going forward, as this school modernization plan comes together, we really need to make sure whatever happens with these schools, that there is a plan for real hard numbers for the owners or the folks who might purchase these in the community. Lastly, there's been some discussion recently about the public safety complex. It's a huge referendum. It's a big project in town. I hear some rumblings, both locally and at the state level, that this funding may not materialize. I'd like to request through the mayor to the town manager an update on where that's at. Should we be concerned? Is that funding coming? Thank you.
Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. I want to thank Pam for coming forward and reminding all about Wreaths Across America, and thank you for doing such a wonderful job in honor of our veterans. I want to thank Lucian for reminding us of our Veterans Day Parade, and that in fact there's a change of date and time. I'm glad you brought that forward. I also want to thank the Veterans Council for the honor that I had the privilege of attending the Gold Family Luncheon. And it's refreshing and wonderful that our town, that our Veterans Council makes a point to honor and respect those families. Thank you for doing that. I do want to make 2 announcements. Speaking of veterans, I'm not sure if many people are aware, but the Penelope Terry Abbey chapter of the DAR does identify a Veteran of the Year, and this year's veteran is Tony Torres. So we are honored to have his ceremony. I believe we're going to be in December, and I'll have the date as we get closer. And in addition to our Veteran of the Year, we also have American History Teacher Award of the Year, and I'm currently working on that project with our superintendent's office for the school to identify who they choose to be the teacher. We don't do that. But these are just very exciting events, and we're honored as a chapter to be able to do this. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Nelson.
Okay, couple things. Jarmark Farms. I can't imagine what these people are going through, but I do know that me and Councilman Finger addressed a very similar issue on Buchanan several months ago. I don't know what's going on at Jarmark Farms, and I really don't care, but I do know that Steve Jarmark was a great partner with this community for years. And it seems like since Owen has taken over, maybe we're losing that a little bit, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And at this point, through the mayor, I would ask that, Ellen, if you could please set up a meeting with Steve Jarmock, not Owen, and get him in this building as soon as possible, because if they don't address these issues immediately, I will be the first one in line to start going after them, because this is unacceptable. And I know Steve will address this, and maybe Steve can work with Owen. I know he's young. He's trying to take over. He's trying to make a profitable farm, and I respect that 100%. But sometimes the new guy doesn't understand that, you got to work with people to move things along, and you get a lot farther in life by doing that. So if we could set that up, and I don't know who wants to be president. I don't want to make politics out of this, but I want to get to the bottom of it, because, like I said, we've been dealing with it on Buchanan, and what I just saw, he has a case with the bulldozer and everything, not to mention the drainage that this town owns is all full of everything. And what about the thousands and thousands of dollars of topsoil that's just getting washed down the road off of their fields? That would be an issue that Steve would address. So, again, if we can set this up tomorrow, because something has to get done, even if they just bulldoze a berm along all the back of those properties and capture the water on their own land, because he's 100% correct about planning and zoning and the regulations. You cannot divert water onto your neighbor's properties. So, I hope we can resolve this peacefully. And I think Steve, at this point, is the person to go through, because, as they've said, and so have other people, it seems like Owen's not favorable of returning phone calls. Next, I asked last meeting also if we could just check into putting the signs back up on town council nights out front. As much as people don't like the town council, it's more favorable to see that than it is taxes are due, because we all hate that sign. And then, as always, Pam and Lucian, I can't thank you enough for everything you do for this community. So keep up the great work, and I'm here if you need anything. Thank you.
All right, I have a couple of announcements to make. First of all, to the Martins, I've known your family, I've known your boys, I've had both of them in school. We've known about this issue. Councilor Santinella has done everything that we've possibly could have done. I commend him for that. The communication that we've had, those videos, we know, the town knows. The town knows the silt that goes into the drainage and then into the Connecticut River. They know that something definitely needs to be done. So, we have to get that communication with the Jarmark Farms. I don't care if it's Owen, his father, whomever. This has to be corrected. Looking at that video, the water up to your knees, my God. I mean, that's, we've seen this. We've seen this now for 2 years. All right, so that has to get corrected. So we have to move on that, and I'd like to see that moved on very quickly. In regards to the placards and the ways of communicating, the meetings, I think the town does a pretty good job. I do understand your point of view of, older people not using social media and want to be notified in different ways, or going back to the old school type method. I think there could be a combination of the both. So we will look into that. And I know Chief Fox was taking some notes in regard to your comments in regard to the trucks and tractor trailers that are going down Weymouth Road, and I know we will address that. All right, so I just wanted to bring that up. Councilor Hopkins is definitely correct in terms of an appetite for certain roads in town for these tractor trailers to be traveling down. All right, there are certain roads that, they shouldn't be going on. So that is something that somebody in the district counselor, and the whole council can take a look at that. So thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention. One thing that I do want to mention, that this week there was a Mental Health and Wellness Coalition meeting with Katie Bailey. She's from New Hampshire. And when the coalition is aiming to implement project in 4 focus areas. One is the loneliness epidemic, youth, homelessness, and mental health. So the town is going to introduce, as time goes on, we will be meeting on this, and we're going to have focused on 4 those areas and have town projects based on that. So I thought that was a well-attended meeting. The other thing is, a few of us with town administration, we did meet with the Abbey family, the Enfield Historical Society, and the Daughters of the American Revolution. We met and discussed about redoing, and Mr. Abbey is going to donate funds for not the reconstruction, but the renovation of the Abbey Monument, and plus the benches around it. And I think that would really spruce it up, that area there on the corner of South Road and Route 5. And he was a very interesting gentleman, and his sister. It was a great meeting. So it's a non-political project that's going to be taking place here in town. All right, we're going to keep the politics out of it. He doesn't want anything to do with politics, because if he finds out politics is involved, he'll say, see ya. And he's a very wealthy man who wants to do something great for our town. So we do welcome that. I know that there was a Run for Addiction community event that happened about a week ago, and that was well attended by several people. Once again, on October 14th here on the Town Green, Allied will be having their annual walk, and it's a community day. Hopefully we see a lot of people out in attendance, and the weather hopefully is going to be great. It's from 10 to 3. So getting back to what Councilor Hopkins, I know Town Manager will talk a little more about the funding. And good news about the public safety complex, about the bonding. So she will discuss that, but it is good positive news for our town moving forward with that, along with the $11.6, $11.3 million grant that the Enfield Housing Authority did receive on the Community Fund Grant. So there's a couple of good things that have happened here for our town of Enfield. So moving forward, we will be in the future be looking for the impaneling of a building committee for that EMS police project finally moving forward. So that's all that there's probably a few other things that I'm going to say, but I'm going to hold off on making some more comments. And I do thoroughly understand your quality of life issues over there that you're experiencing on Francis Avenue. And we are still looking into that, and we will be with a Public Safety Committee meeting, I think is next week, I believe. All right, so there will be some recommendations made. Okay, so we will be addressing that. Okay, Councilor Ungar, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to be redundant. Mayor Crissati stole a lot of my verbiage, so I'll keep it short. I just wanted to say to Pamela that that's the first I've heard about Weymouth Road and the speeders. I frequent that road a lot, and but I have seen some of the trucks, and we can bring it up in our public safety meeting and have a discussion about it. And about the advertising, we try to advertise everywhere we can think of and think we're doing a good job, and people still say, oh, I didn't know anything about that. So it's a constant battle, but we'll try to brainstorm and see if we can come up with some new ideas. Thank you for coming.
Councilor Pisner.
Thank you. Mr. Young, thank you once again. You keep us in check, and I appreciate it. We did get a nice packet from the town manager with answers to the questions from the last meeting, and I will go over them. And I always appreciate you coming and, again, keeping us in check. Pam and Lucian, I'll see you both. You know I'm always at Wreaths. You know I'm always at the parade. If I'm not marching in it this year, I'll be on the sideline, but I'll be there. Mr. Martin, unacceptable. Thank you for coming and bringing it to our attention, and hopefully something can be resolved with a meeting with Steve Jarmock. Pam, I agree with you. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old grandchild, so I don't like speeding cars, and my street is a raceway, and usually Mr. Hendrickson is here talking about it. So Chief Fox is very aware of our roads in town that need to be looked at, and I have every faith that he is out there doing that. Francis Avenue, hopefully, I like the idea of maybe parking on one side. I did see a couple of emails on that. We'll see what happens coming out of safety. Ms. Price, thank you so much for looking at our charter and reminding us of it. I do want to make one comment, though. You did say something about a stipend. I'll be honest with you, I've never received a dime, so I can still consider this a volunteer position. And other than that, thank you all for coming, and as always, sharing your thoughts with us. It's the only way we learn. Thank you.
Councilor Despard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to chime in and piggyback off of what Councilor Ungary was saying. Truck traffic, tractor-trailer truck traffic is something we have been looking at in the Public Safety Subcommittee, seeing what we can do, what roads we can, what roads we can't. Connecticut DOT has a lot to say about that. So it is something we continue to look at as a part of a larger conversation about traffic calming in general. So this is pretty high on our list, and we do meet October 11th. That meeting is open to the public. There isn't public comment, but anybody who wants to come could come, and I believe that's at 1 p.m. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ludwig.
Through the mayor to the town manager and to, Sheila, we got a bunch of information from the BAA yesterday. Is that part of, could you just clarify that that's part of the minutes? I know we approved the minutes, but I think there was additional information that we received. Could you just
If it's in addition to the 1.5 inches, 2 inches that I
they
already have,
submitted,
I have not seen it, and I don't know if it's duplicate or not,
All right.
but I have not
I'll
seen it.
forward you the email then. I got. Okay, thank you. Through the mayor to the town manager, question, I don't know if you can answer, I hope it's an easy question. Someone puts an in-ground pool in their yard and re-slopes it, they have to get a permit for that, correct? So if someone reslopes a piece of property and then there's runoff on another neighboring piece of property, isn't that permittable? Even though I understand farms are a little more flexible, but it's still runoff and, soot coming into the neighboring.
I am going to give the council a synopsis of where we
Got
are
it, okay.
with
Yeah,
the
fair.
Alon Street issue as well as overview issue.
Because I know that happens a lot with folks. Someone puts an in-ground pool 3 houses down, then unfortunately the neighbor 3 houses down got water all over in their backyard. So I think it's a similar, maybe not the same, but a similar situation to what we talked about earlier. And then through the mayor to the attorney, could you explain when we get, I don't understand if there's a stay on a lawsuit, how someone can go back to normal when there's a stay on a law. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but it doesn't make any sense to me. And if you could make sense to me when you get a chance, that'd be great, because that doesn't seem right. Thank you.
Councilor Finger.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of things, a few things is, Lucian and Pam, thank you very much. And I want to thank Councilor Ludwig for really pushing to get that trafficking video done. It took him a long time. He stayed on it, and we finally got it. It's a good thing. So I want to thank you, Mike, for doing that. Francis Avenue, through the mayor to the town manager, somebody, how did they get down on Powder Ridge those parking by resident permit only signs? What did it take for them to get those? Because The reason why they have them is because they were getting all the out-of-state people coming down using the Skinnick Park area, and they got to be really out of hand, and there were too many cars on the streets. They stopped them. They stopped them on, I think, that and Dust House Road, I think, and all that. So how did they get those signs down, but we can't do anything for Francis Avenue? I mean, to me, I think this is a lot worse than people going down to swim. So I don't know how that's done. And the other thing I got is on Abbey Road in front of Tyler and going into Monroe, when it does rain, the fields from, I'm sure you know about that, does get soot all over the roads too. It wasn't too bad as last storm, but our taxpayers are using the town sweeper or the loader to go down there and scrape and clean it up, and while he's still getting it done. And the last thing I want to do is, when we had that special meeting with the Board of Education, I want to apologize to the Madam Chairman because she was right. We were rude when we got up to do all the waters, and we got up to continue that. So if anybody could pass it on to her, maybe she'll see this meeting tonight. I do want to apologize to her for being rude and not listening when she was speaking, because she did sit there and listen to us. And again, I give my apologies to her. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Scala.
Thank you. One quick comment, just to Mr. Young, and I know you come all the time with a lot of information, and I don't know if I actually may have misheard you when you were talking about the School Modernization Committee and the recommendations and what the plan may be for schools. So I do just want to clarify that if the recommendation that comes out is to do a school modernization sort of plan, and that goes to referendum. Although I don't set the reimbursement rates, there would be about, generally speaking, about a 79% reimbursement for those schools. So if we do it through a committee and do a referendum and things like that, we'd be looking at about a 79% reimbursement for those eligible reimbursements. 0% reimbursements if we don't do anything and we piecemeal all of the things that we're going to need to do to all of those schools, which is maybe, I don't know, $100 million or so. Don't quote me on those numbers, but I don't know if I misheard you, but I did think I heard you say that it was not going to be reimbursable at all. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor communications are over. We'll move it over to the town manager report.
Good evening, Town Council. I just have a couple of things to bring to your attention. The first is, yes, we are officially on the State Bond Commission agenda for Friday, October 6th. We are receiving a portion of the funds that we requested in order to move forward with the public safety complex. I had conversations last week with the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor, and the Chief of Staff, and they've decided that because of the way that they envision this type of project and what they're doing in other communities is encouraging phasing. Phasing actually makes a lot of sense in Enfield because of our referendum restrictions, also the fact that there's such a spike in building costs and materials. So what we've decided is to try to phase the project in hopefully 3 phases. The first phase would be the most pressing need, which is EMS. So we have set aside $2.6 million through bonding and a little bit in the general fund, and we are going to receive from the state of Connecticut an additional $2.6 million, which gives us the a little bit over 5. And we believe that that first phase could be done for that. The state has then told us as we continue through the phases, they will update and hopefully allot additional money. In the case that that doesn't happen, the town council can then, because it's a phased project, pause it, do smaller pieces, do another referendum in order to do whatever would need to be done. But at this point, they will be encapsulated phases that could stand on their own or could continue as a larger project over time and with additional dollars dedicated. So I did send all of you an email on Friday at 4:44 once we got confirmation that the agenda was published. So if any of you did not see that, let me know and I can forward it to you again. I do have some interesting data for you because, and this is going to tie into the Martin situation as well as a few others. we had a major storm event again, starting on Friday. This is something that, from a local perspective and a municipal perspective, has long-reaching effects on how we produce services. Couple of quick facts. We measured 5.75 inches of rain over that compact period of Friday onto Saturday. Let's talk about our water pollution control facility. That is currently permitted for about 10 million gallons per day of process. We were at about 6:30 on Friday night. We were at 21 million gallons per day, far out exceeding what we're able to do and what we should be able to handle. That has necessitated some manual operations because every alarm went off in every lift station because of what was happening. We had over 121 hours of overtime from the water pollution control staff, who did a phenomenal job of making sure that everything was kept working when we went onto manual controls, because we couldn't stay on automatic controls. We had to do a bypass, which is a technical term. There appears to be a significant issue in the Prospect Street area. There was quite a bit of overflow out of a manhole. I think I sent you that picture at the Kelly Fredette site. It was impacting the railroad tracks. We had to call Amtrak. They had to make a decision about whether to do a slow order or actually discontinue service. Luckily, they did not have to discontinue service. So I say this in the scope of a lot happens when it rains that maybe the average citizen doesn't understand goes into municipal operations. Luckily, we had no loss of biomass, but we did have to make a report to the Department of Environmental Protection. So this is an ongoing issue. Water pollution control, how we process the significant inflow of groundwater and stormwater. And frankly, what's happening on Alon Street is negatively impacting our system. So to just pivot a little bit to Alon Street, this is a really difficult issue, just like Francis Avenue and Jimmy's Pub is a difficult issue, because at face value, it appears to be a private versus private entity dispute. However, after reviewing the data, and Councilor Santinella and I spent some time out on Alon Street a couple of weeks ago, and he's done some additional research about some of our options. And again, actually, Councilor Finger and I had this conversation about the situation that he referenced. There's a lot of pressure points that are developing. And I do think that having a meeting with the concerned business owner would be the best route, and I will endeavor to make that happen. We've actually just recently received a communication this morning about a cease and desist from another private entity onto that entity affecting the Buckhorn pipeline. So there are lots of conversation points that we can do. So I will try to make that happen. I don't know that they have to meet with us because, as you know, and as Councilor Santinella's research has shown in all the work that we've done in the past 2 or 3 weeks since we were on Alon Street, agricultural purpose and use does have certain things that they can do that are outside of what would be considered normal zoning regulations. But the impact of what you saw tonight, of what has been measured with our visits out there, is now impacting our roadway, it's impacting our water pollution control, it's impacting catch basins, it's impacting sloping. There's a whole bunch of municipal impact. So that is the point that we have been pursuing, in addition to 7.107, I think, of zoning regulations. It is not going to be an easy piece to go forward, but thanks to the documentation from the neighbors and everything that they have done since they've had the situation happen, which Attorney Tallberg just looked back in our records, and we have an initial documentation from the Martins that dates back to 2021. So this is an ongoing issue, but I do believe that now we have that data that we can use in order to move that forward. In terms of some of the questions that were asked tonight, just quickly, Weymouth at Steele, Weymouth at Deerfield, and Parkman School are all on the infamous list that you have in terms of actual enforcement locations. I believe that is up to 81. So again, that's what you are asking the police department to do, and those are the locations that are being looked at. Weymouth in 3 different locations is 3 of the 81. The Brainerd School and the Nathan Hale School, I think that those are really significant concerns that are mirrored by a lot of the community because you see two vacant schools. As you're all aware, the Nathan Hale School has interest, and we are trying to move that into the private market, put it on the grand list, and have some very compatible use with the neighborhood go there. We are working with the legislature in order to get a forgiveness. And even if we don't, that ticks down next September. And Brainerd, actually, we started working with them shortly after I arrived here. We've offered them technical services through UConn, the TAB program, the same grant program that is working with Nathan Hale to assess that property. We did meet with the owners, and they have agreed to allow us to assess Brainerd as well to hopefully incentivize them to move forward and do something with that property because it's not something that we want representative of the town. We will look into the town council signs. I believe the Public Works employees were looking for them. I have noted that we're going to put a couple of items discussed tonight on the next Public Safety Committee. I will make the appointment, hopefully, to have representatives or their attorneys from JARMA come in. And then I'll just end with one quick statement. There is a site, I believe it's housed within the Office of Policy and Management website, and it's called the Connecticut Data Report, and it is maintained by state government. In the state of Connecticut, there are over 14 forms of government, and within each of those forms of government, there are subderivative forms of government as well. Enfield has the council manager form of government, in which the town manager is the chief municipal officer, which is a term coined by state government. A strong mayor form of government means that the mayor is the municipal CEO of that community. There are communities that have a mayor-council form of government, but the term used is a weak mayor form of government because the mayor only presides and only casts tie votes, those types of things, such as what they have in New Britain. So mayor weak form, mayor strong mayor, representative town government, first selectmen. We have, I think Manchester is just moving from their general manager board of directors form of government. In Fairfield, there are 165 people that serve as the form of government. So Connecticut has always had a very colored history in terms of whatever forms of government there are. I think it's important to note that in terms of data exists. There's a lot of different terms that can be thrown around, but none of them really are effective when they're just clipped out of something or a comment within one set. So if anyone is interested in the open data report or any other types of that, I'd be happy to forward you the full report so you could read everything associated with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Just really quickly, I wanted to thank the town council for the crossing guard increase in rate of pay. We interviewed 3 people just today, and we're moving fast on that. We posted it, and we're getting more qualified candidates, so thank you.
And Mayor, we do have, Sheila is prepared to speak if any of you have any comments or concerns about the charter revision schedule that we've included that we're starting to talk about. She can answer anything as well as give you an overview about where we stand with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Pisner.
To the mayor, through the mayor to the town manager, I just want to say I was really excited when I got the email on Friday that the safety complex was finally being looked at. But I do have a couple of questions that hopefully you can answer for me. So the first one is that you had said that we have $2.6 million for the roof. It was roof that was in the email.
2.3 for the bond, and then we had set aside $300,000 in general capital for the police roof.
But the roof obviously wouldn't cost that much money for the roof.
We don't know.
Okay, so I guess my next question is, can this be split into phases? Because it was a referendum that the people agreed to only $2.3 million towards this project. That's what the referendum stated. It was 12.8 from the state and 2.3 from the taxpayer. So by phasing it in, I'm concerned that we're going against what that referendum was. So just so I can understand this, and what I would feel more comfortable with is if that we could get something in writing from bond counsel that we are going to be able to phase this project in. And I would also like to see something, if we can do that and move forward in phases, before we move forward, I would like a written commitment from the governor's office that the remainder of that project will be covered. I don't think we can move forward if we don't have that, because that project totaled $15 million plus. And taxpayers in that referendum agreed to 2.3. So getting 2.6 from the state, I am thrilled, and I'm not going to say no to it, and I do think the EMS has to be brought over. So I'm happy with that. I just question if we can phase it in. So I would like those two things in writing before I think I can move forward with phasing it in.
So to answer your first question, which is a good one, about our bond piece, the first phone call that John Wilcox and I made upon the conversations with the governor's office that we had last week was to our bond counsel, Attorney Ritter, who assured us that based on his reading of the wording of our referendum, that you can phase a project, and that $2.3 million that we are potentially bonding can be used in a phase one, and it is not a violation. I'm trying to find the email that I will forward to you, but we did get that assurance before we proceeded in any type of public notification about the potential of this project. So that is all taken care of. In terms of getting a promise from the governor's office, in a perfect world, yes, that would be lovely. What I can do is tell you that there are over 30 projects that he is phased funding that reference public in in all different shapes and forms across the state. This is a new way of doing business. I think we got caught a little bit in the crosshairs between the failed referendum, the rejuvenation of the issue, the work that you all did last year to get it passed, and new staff with new philosophies coming into the governor's office. So we've forged ahead with new relationships with the chief of staff. We have a great advocate in the lieutenant governor who is very proud of her roots and her family's roots here in Enfield, so she's been wonderful to work with. And the governor recognizes that this needs to happen, and he also has said that he believes that Enfield is that regional hub for North Central, and that there's other opportunities that future phases could address. I'm never going to get anybody to commit to something, especially as it relates to funding. But I do think that having strong working relationships with our partners in Hartford is going to benefit us. And I also think that once the first part of the project is done, we will have something to stand on. To address your concerns about the costs, what you saw and what happened with the referendum was a conceptual set of drawings with a list of things that we felt were important for EMS purposes. I forget what Chief Riggett has said in terms of the numbers, but there are certain things that she has to comply with based on state regulations that we could probably say that we're not reaching all of them based on the inadequacy of her facility. That's a priority. We know that we have training issues. We're currently at the transfer station for the police department, which is not an optimal training situation. We know that we have opportunities to do more with in-person training. How many mandates have you received over the course of the last 3 to 5 years to put police officers back in the classroom? We are paying a lot of money to send officers elsewhere to get these mandatory trainings. When you are the host and you have a facility that can attract those types of regional events, you actually make money. Not that that's our main goal, but think about that. Not only are we not paying out for those trainings, other people are coming to Enfield and paying for those trainings because we become a hub, because we have that type of facility. That plus the fact that we have outgrown some of the spatial issues at the police department based on some of the demands on policing. We have community policing, we have embedded social workers, we have DCF workers, we have an expanded detective base, we have internet crimes, we have things going on like with the presentation you saw before. Some of these were not envisioned when that building was built over 30 years ago. So it's time to overhaul all of this to the best of our ability. Your concerns about financing, I hear them, but I do believe that phasing it makes the most sense in order to get it going. And if for a couple of years you have a brand new EMS building in the back of the police department and you still have Lieutenant Held with a can and a mop and trying to get the water to stop coming in those back doorways, because that's a great picture, then I guess that's what we do. And we tell all the police officers that they're going to be part-time custodians when it rains because the building is in dire need.
I will not argue that this complex needs to be done. I'm not here to argue that. I agree with it 100%. I want it to happen. I just don't believe that this is what our voters voted for. The people of the town did not pass it the first time. It passed last year with a promise that the taxpayers would only incur $2.3 million. The numbers I'm seeing, even in phase one, I think would be more. So my concern is, again, looking out for the taxpayers. Not that it shouldn't happen. I want it to happen. I was out here knocking on doors the year I ran and last year to try to get this to go through. My hesitation is, without something that the state has a commitment to our town to complete this project, I don't want this to fall on our taxpayers for more than what they said they would pay. That is my concern.
Thank you, Marie. We're going to go to Councilor Santinello.
So I have a similar question. Based on the wording of the referendum, can you just help me understand where the other $10 million comes from? Is that state money? We don't know.
So right now, all we have is $5.2 million to do a phase. Now, we internally, having this conversation last week, believe that the biggest issue is EMS, to try to get them out of that space and into a better space. So the way I looked at it is you have $5.2 million and your project has to be under that cost. Now, you could also be very conservative and say, you know what, we're going to spend $5.2 million and we're going to do all the site work. We're going to connect that road out to Moody. We're going to expand the parking lot. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. That could be phase one. Or you could say, you know what, we want to fix the police department, put in the conference piece, which was forecast to be a little connector building that would connect the police and the new EMS. You could do that first. Fix the roof, do everything you need to do. We just thought that a standalone EMS constructed building where the vehicles could be parked inside, there could be climate control for the medication and everything else that we're required to, could be done as a first phase. This has to go to a building committee, everything else that needs to be done. You only have $5.2 million. You don't have the projected cost of $15 million. Everything has to go back to the drawing board. Everything has to be redesigned. Don't even think about 15.1. Don't even think about state money and the amount of 12.8. You only have $5.2 million. And to Councilor Pisner's point, you should probably think about that in terms of only having $5.2 million. Now, we could also be creative and say, we haven't closed out the fiscal year from last year yet. We could take $827,000 from that and not violate the charter. You could front load this year and do another $838,000 if you wanted to. I'm not recommending that because I do believe that you need to be transparent based on the referendum language and what people voted for. But rest assured, our bond counsel, who also happens to be the Speaker of the House, has given us the green light to use both pieces of this funding to do a first phase.
Okay. I don't want to take a lot of time here. I have a lot of questions, and I'll just take them offline, and we can talk then. All right, thanks.
Councilor Ludwig.
So just a suggestion, I'm not going to be, but I think this is something we should have a public information hearing. And I'm saying, look, I don't compare which project is better than the other. But the original intent was for a new police station, then the EMS came in after. A lot of folks, I think we need to let the public say if they're okay with first phase not being the police station. I think we have to have that conversation. I mean, I'm just saying, look, that was the original intent. I understand things changed. We don't have the money, which again, I warned we weren't going to get, but that's another issue. But I think we need to talk before we get a building committee and start going down the road, are folks okay with $5.2 million instead of having a public safety complex, you have an EMS building? That's a complete change of what the referendum is. That's all I'm saying. I'm not arguing with your explanation. I'm saying we need to have a public information hearing, and people need to be able to say, look, I'm not in favor. I mean, as much as I love any new EMS building, the point was to have a new police station, to your point, where we can have regional, we can charge other towns to have regional training here. We don't have a state barracks anywhere near Enfield, where, again, it would not be a state barracks, but in theory, some sort of idea. So I think this completely changes what the original scope of that referendum was. Plus, it also crosses two referendums, where you have a roof referendum, which the police station is involved in. There is a lot of moving parts here that I think we need to have a public information hearing, and the bond council should be here. Because, again, man, I'm not a lawyer, but you read how we appropriate up to $15 million. It doesn't say in phases. It doesn't say, and why do we have to use our portion of 2.3, to match that originally? The local taxpayers are spending their full amount up front, not knowing we're going to get anywhere close to that $15 million that was in the referendum. I'm just saying transparency here needs to be important, because now things have changed. That's all I'm going to say. And then one last question to the mayor, to Sheila. I just got this charter revision thing. I'm sorry. I mean, this is a big deal, and I don't know if I'm going to be ready to vote for this next meeting. I mean, what does no more than a bare majority of members mean? That's one of the things that I just seen here.
I'm sorry, I don't have that schedule in front of me.
I mean, I'm sorry. I hate getting this.
Section
This
is
is a
that
big
under?
deal. The next council will be, and I'll say I'm just reading this now. Back when Mary Lou Strom was mayor, back in the day when we had a charter revision, each councilor got to appoint their own member to that committee. In my opinion, that's the fairest way. Instead of it's up to each councilor, because this is a big deal. And I don't understand some of this language here. I'm just getting it. And I'm not rushing it. And then by November 13th, whatever the new council may be, now we got to appoint people to get started in 15 days. I mean, sorry, we need an extra month in this charter, in this process. Not yelling at you, I'm just saying, I just seen this today, and we're talking about charter revision, and I haven't even had an input on it at all. Thank you.
I do understand your point. I just wanted to bring to the council's attention that per our town charter, it says every 10 years that the council needs to appoint a charter revision commission, and it uses the term shall. And the last time that our charter was revised was in 2014, so this 2024. Okay, sure.
A little too aggressive in my opinion. Thank you, sorry.
Okay, town manager.
Yes, just to close out the conversation about the public safety complex, I'm looking at the referendum language, which does reference those other amounts, but it also ends with, to be funded by state grants and other available funds. So I think that that's important language, that hopefully we would get more state money, but if not, other available funds, which could be other grants from other places. It could be funding through CIP. It could be any other types. So I do believe that we're covered, and I think that the public meeting is a great idea. I think we probably are going to have to do several of them just so that everybody's on board, and maybe even revisit some of the open houses that we did, because really a picture is worth 1,000 words in terms of what the facilities are. So I will add that to my list of things as well.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And also, in the meantime, I would encourage every single counselor here, time is of essence. If you have questions, please either give them to your leadership, or you can send them right directly to the town manager. All right? I mean, we could be here for hours discussing this. We just got this. Please take a look at it. Let it digest. If you have further questions about the $2.3 million that we're going to be getting that would go towards the funding of a project that we need here in town, please write your questions up, submit them in, and we'll try to get the answers for you. And I'll allow one more question, Councilor Nelson.
Okay, I won't beat it to death, but $2.3 million bought the taxpayers a rebuilt police department, an expansion on the police department, and an EMS building. Okay, that was their share, was $2.3 million.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed $2.3 million. So if we were to take and add money to CIP, we're exceeding $2.3 million. If we were to go anywhere else in the taxpayer's pocket, we're exceeding $2.3 million. And if I paid a developer to build me a mansion, and he said it's $2.3 million, and I'll come up with the rest of the money, and I show up, I give him 2.3, and 6 months later I show up and there's only a garage because he couldn't get the rest of the money, I'm going to be pissed. And they have a right to be pissed. They approved the money. I agree with Councilman Ludwig. If anything, I would say at least it goes back to referendum. I do believe this project needs to go forward. So maybe we can get our state reps and senator in here and start beating up the governor for some more money and, shrink the project down, whatever we've got to do to stop water from running in the back door, because the suggestion now is just an EMS building. That's not going to fix water running in their back door. And like the bridge in Thompsonville, we need to address our existing buildings before we start spending money on new buildings that don't get maintained. And in less than 2 weeks, this is the second time I've heard about we can allocate $830,000 this year, $830,000 next year to get around the charter. The charter's put in place not to get around it. There's a reason for it, and that reason is to give the taxpayers the voice. I will never, ever support that, and if we need money like that, then we should have it on the ballot in time for the voters to make a decision. Thank you.
So just to be clear, the 2.3 million, so it reads specifically, and to authorize the issuance of bonds, notes, or temporary notes in an amount not to exceed $2.3 million to finance the appropriation, with the remaining dollars to be funded by state grants and other available funds. So we cannot, according to this, there is not going to be any additional issuance of bonds, notes, or temporary notes beyond 2.3, because that's the promise that we made to the taxpayers. You could go to CIP, you could apply for federal grants, you could apply for other types of funding to fill that in. You just cannot bond past the 2.3 for this project.
Federal grants, all of that. It's not coming out of local Enfield taxpayers. To me, that's no different than a state grant. And that's a whole different story. I would be on board 100%. But to make them believe for $2.3 million, they were getting a state-of-the-art police department with EMS facility where we can bring in training, make money with it, and they don't get that for $2.3 million, it's misleading. And I don't think anybody here is trying to do that. And I think having open communication with them, and possibly if we can't get the money, scale it down and go out to referendum again. So at least the public knows exactly what they're getting. So I back Councilman Ludwig on this.
And Mr. Mayor, that's the end of our portion of the report, but we do have Attorney Tallberg who is weighing in tonight as well.
Okay, Attorney Tallberg.
Real
Good
quick,
evening.
to answer Councilor Hopkins' question and Councilor Ludwig's question about Jimmy's Pub, I think I know the answer, but I just want to double check. I think the answer is that the filing of the lawsuit in court does stay execution of the cease and desist order that is at issue in the case. But as you may recall, Attorney Maria Elsden had been our land use expert, and looking at the most recent pleading, she is the one who sought a referral to the land use docket, and Friday was her last day. We gave her a nice lunch. I know that she quickly got on a plane and went away for 2 weeks. So we're putting a Band-Aid on this and trying to cover her files. I will just double check that that's the correct answer. I know there's a status conference in that pending ZBA appeal on October 24, so there will be a need to take a closer look at this, and I'll get you both that answer and circulate it to the rest of the council if that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Attorney Tallberg. The statute I was looking at was section, Connecticut General Statute, section 8.7. If that's at all helpful, sort of notes in there that an appeal doesn't by itself stay, but there might be an order by the ZBA that I don't know about that stays it. So I look forward to that answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to be moving on the report special committees of the council. The General Government and Finance Subcommittee, the recommendation from the independent report on the 2021 revalve. I know that the subcommittee has been meeting to go over the independent report and its recommendations, and I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Scala to give a preview of this, and later on there's an actual resolution that appears on the agenda later.
Thank you. So I know we're going to be voting on it on 12C, so I'll keep this brief. General government has been meeting, and one of our main focuses has been the recommendations or what recommendations should come out of the independent report. You will see 7 that we're putting forth tonight for vote, and I will say that these 7 that are coming forth are unanimous, bipartisan support from the subcommittee. That is why they're grouped together as these 7. It's really hard to go through these very quickly, which is kind of one of the reasons this is taking a while. And we will continue to work on it. I think we have another meeting hopefully in the next week or 2 to continue to go through them. There will be more to come, and there's a lot of discussion on things we may not agree on, what may we need more time to review. But these 7 that you see before us, some came from the report, some came from us, and some, came from staff. So it has unanimous bipartisan support from our subcommittee. I don't know if John or Mike have anything additional to that, if I missed anything, but that's why they're up there.
Okay, thank you. We're going to be moving on to Councilor Nelson.
Do we want to mention the meeting that we had Friday with the generous gentleman? And we can leave his name out of it?
He did.
I did.
He already mentioned it.
Jesus.
You were out of
I'm
the
sorry.
room.
You were in the bathroom.
I did. That's okay. That's okay, Ken. All right, let's move on to new business consent agenda. Under our first consent agenda item, we only have one, the resolution waiving the bid waiver requirements for the police department purchase of the Star Chase system. You have all the information there in front of you by a show of hands. All in favor?
I have a question, sorry. Is it possible to get a brief explanation of the program? Sorry, I'm not trying to, for all 3 of them. I don't know if there's. No, we didn't get much information.
Well, we
I'll
did,
say this.
You got a
we
whole-
discussed it
got a
at
whole
caucus last
sheet here.
night. Yeah.
It's why it's under consent agenda. Chief, if you want to very briefly, come on up. Thank you.
Thank you. Star Chase is a technology that effectively mounts behind the grille of a car, and it shoots a suction cup dart, if you will. It doesn't cause any damage to the car. There's an opinion letter that's been written by the Hartford County State's Attorney that she sees no Fourth Amendment issues with the use of this equipment. West Hartford, Newington, and the state police are making use of it. It is a tool to try to address flight of cars from us, which was significant before, and it's become even more significant now. When shot and applied to a vehicle that is fleeing, we can then GPS track that vehicle so that if that vehicle winds up at another location, when that vehicle winds up at another location, and obviously we're not pursuing it, we can then find that vehicle at that location and take the appropriate enforcement action. People flee. The plates are very often misuse of plates on that car, and it's frustrating would be an understatement.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Is there any been challenge to the Fourth Amendment on this by anyone? You
No.
mentioned no.
No.
And is there any recourse if we mistakenly fire this on a car?
It's a suction cup dart
But I'm just
that
saying,
comes
if
right
you
off.
track someone mistakenly?
Is there recourse? Somebody could sue for anything, but I don't know what their damages would be.
Councilor Hopkins.
Really interesting system. I think it solves a practical need for sure. I don't appreciate the groan, Councilor Mangini. I think that's a legitimate question. I think Infield has had the support of the community for a long time for well-funding its police department. I think it's important for people to see the benefits. I think you do a great job of talking about all the work you do and where this money goes. I think this is great that it's grant funded especially. What's the longer term cost? Is there a yearly training cost? Is that able to be covered by any future grants?
So we have a grant for this, and we actually have money left over from the grant that we're going to be using for additional stop sticks, spike strips for the cars. The add-on cost over the years is $1,500 per unit. So we would have 2 units, so it'd be $3,000 per year going forward in the future. That's effectively for maintenance and upgrade on the IT end of the system that we would need.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, final question?
Yeah, Chief, if you don't mind, what other secrets do we have in our arsenal that can help us get the bad guys? We might as well tell everybody now, because this is a great program and it would be a great surprise for the Enfield Police Department to have. But since now it's public, sorry about you losing your edge.
I appreciate that, as well as the underlying, tenor of the comment. I can tell you that it is commercially available, and with an internet search, I think folks could have found it. But I do appreciate what I perceive to be the tenor of the comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Chief, for your explanation. Greatly appreciate it. By a raise of hands, all in favor? Unanimous, 11-0. We will now, there are no town council appointments to be made. We will now move to Resolution C, the resolution concerning recommendations from the independent review on the 2021 revaluation. There is a good explanation, as Deputy Mayor Sakala. There are 7 points here. There's a budget impact, there's a recommendation. Town council endorses these specific recommendations from the General Government and Finance Committee. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Council endorse these specific recommendation from the General Government and Finance Committee, date prepared 9/28/2023, prepared by Ellen Zapusasu, the Town Manager.
So moved.
To Councilor Mangini.
Second.
And a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. Discussion. Councilor Nelson.
I just have 2 questions. Was the BAA present during these discussions about the recommendations? No. And was the assessor present?
Nope.
No. And the BAA and the assessors are the ones who deal with this on a daily basis, and I think they know their rights better than the council does. And I personally feel we should form a committee that consists of the chairman of the BAA, whoever it is, and the assessor, whoever it is, and 2 council liaisons, since we're going to dictate how they do their job, and that's not our role as council members. That'd be us like telling the chief how to do his job policing. And I think they should be part of the discussion with these recommendations, because maybe they have something to add to this that the report didn't. And we all know the report is skewed in many, many ways. So my suggestion is we rip the recommendations out of the report, throw it in the trash, form this committee, and get everybody at a round table to discuss this and come up with the recommendations and work together. Because isn't that what we're trying to do? Bring everybody back together? Because they're so divided now. We've got to fix this. And by us making decisions and telling them what to do, why does the BAA record their meetings? I don't have that answer. And the BAA would be the ones who make the decision on whether they want them recorded or not.
It literally says that. That is literally.
But the BAA had no input, and neither did Todd. That's
Maybe point of order, one at a time, please. I think it's important to talk about.
Excuse me.
A point of order gives me the floor. Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me.
I apologize. So it's a point of order. I've asked one at a time. That's a valid Robert.
It is valid.
Okay.
So at this point, I mean, I'd like to make a motion to form a committee and sit these people down at the table together with 2 council liaisons. This is not a general government situation, and they're overstepping their bounds. It's not even really a council issue. They need to work it out with council liaisons to sit there, listen, maybe moderate. Thank you.
I'd like to second that
Counselor
motion too, just so you know.
All right, there is a motion, and motion was made by Counselor Nelson and a second by Counselor Finger. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I'm sorry, what's the motion? Apologize.
To form the committee to discuss all the recommendations from the report with the BAA and the assessor, the BAA chairman and the assessor at the table so they can have input on what they're being directed to do by these recommendations, since they're the ones who got to implement them.
I think we're ready. Counselor Ludwig?
I just want to read these into the record so people know. These are the bullets that the assessor refrained from attending BAA meetings, which was requested by the BAA. The BAA shall.
There's a motion on the floor.
I'm reading.
That's not part of my motion.
I'm answering your question.
No, my question is to form a committee to discuss those.
I'm against forming a
All right,
committee.
so
That's fine.
What we're
Excuse
going
me,
to do right
Mr.
now
Mayor.
is we are going to vote on,
We need to vote on adding an item to the agenda that was not noticed first. We
Okay.
need to vote to amend the agenda, and
Okay,
it
we're-
needs to pass by a 2/3 vote.
well, this is what I was going to be doing next. We're voting on adding this to the agenda to see if we're going to go to the next vote. Okay, so, all right. All in favor?
I had some discussion on
Yeah.
that before we do. Could you describe a little more specifically what you mean? So committee dedicated to doing this, could you speak on that? I don't think I fully understand.
All right.
The committee will consist of the BAA chairman and whoever it is, the assessor, whoever it is, and 2 council liaisons. And they'll sit in a room, go over these recommendations, and the liaisons can be general governance. I don't care. But the BAA and the assessor have a right to put input in on why they did these things or why they don't approve of these things. Sit in a room, discuss it as gentlemen, and come up with a solution. Bring that solution to us that everybody agrees on. What's the harm? I mean, having the people agree, isn't that what we're trying to accomplish? Is to get the BAA and the assessor to work together? And what a way to start it is by having them sit down and go over the ground rules together.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to
the,
interrupt
town
again.
clerk.
We have 2 motions on the floor now. We had the original motion to make these, adopt these recommendations that was made and seconded.
She's correct.
Okay.
All right, I withdraw my
So-
motion.
We will go with the first,
That's you.
okay.
Yeah, that's.
This is,
You have to withdraw the second,
And then
too.
I think we had a first and a second.
we had a
to
first
see.
and a second. We've had our discussion. We are now going to vote.
You're voting on
You're
whether
voting
to
on
accept
C.
the report
I'm accepting the 7 recommendations.
out of the report.
Just really quick. Yes, so this is a recommendation from the subcommittee. Counselor Ludwig, did you want to read them?
Yeah, I mean, again, as I said, the assessor refrained from attending BA meetings, which is what they requested. I'm sorry. The BA shall decide whether to record their meetings. It's up to them. All materials retained by the town clerk's office in accordance with the records retention and FOIA. The assessor should work with farming and agricultural community, including annual PA 490, public information sessions, as well as utilize various media to advertise, disseminate important information, dates, and deadlines. When doing inspections, the assessor should attempt to announce his presence prior to inspecting the property. The council should create policy concerning notification of a property owner who is at risk of being removed from 490 with the assumption that they are to stay in the program. And we're going to work on a similar policy for nonprofits as well. And then the last one was the reorganization. The assessor and the tax collector position should be split into 2 different positions. There's only a couple from the report. The rest are all that what we've heard from the feedback from both the assessor and the BAA and the public. And that's what we're recommending.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know that you will be going back and probably looking at a few other recommendations as time goes on. Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Counselor Santinella.
For.
Counselor Ungary.
Against?
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crissati.
4.
Councilor Despard.
4.
Councilor Finger.
Against.
Councilor Hopkins.
Against.
Councilor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Nelson.
Against.
And, sorry, so that's 1, 2, 3, 6 in favor and 5 against.
We'll be moving on to item D. If there's any questions on item D or E, the chief is here to answer our next two resolutions. The first one is the waiving the bid requirements for the leasing of 2 unmarked vehicles for the police department. And the resolution reads, whereas the Enfield Police Department is using a long-term rental service for unmarked vehicles, and whereas the Enfield Police Department has identified and established a relationship with a vendor that offers the only available long-term rental service specializing in the rental of unmarked vehicles to the police departments. And whereas the Enfield Police Department has been using Acme Auto Leasing for several years, and Acme Auto Leasing has been identified as the only organization in the region that rents, allows unlimited mileage upon, offers unlimited change outs of vehicles, and performs all maintenance on said vehicles. Now therefore be resolved in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 8, Paragraph D of the Enfield Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby determine that it is against the best interests of the town to require competitive bidding for the rental of these vehicles. Date prepared 9/19/2023, prepared by Chief Alaric J. Fox, Enfield Police Department. Councilor Mangini and seconded by Councilor Nelson. Any discussion on these? Sheila, roll call.
Councilor Pisner.
4.
Councilor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crissati.
4.
Councilor Despard.
4.
Councilor Finger.
4.
Councilor Hopkins.
4.
Councilor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
And Councilor Nelson.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Item E, the resolution waiving the bid requirements for the purchase of 100 optical red dot sights for the police department.
So moved. Oh, sorry. No, did you
Go ahead.
finish?
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm done.
All right, so moved.
Councilor Nelson is second by Councilor Despard. Whereas the Enfield Police Department is purchasing 100 optical red dot sights, and whereas the Enfield Police Department will need a qualified law enforcement vendor with a higher quality control standard that other retailers do not need to follow, and has the ability to provide the sites in a timely manner to ensure all officers are qualified to use them. And whereas CH Precision Weapons has been identified as the only organization in the region that sells these sights to have them in stock and at least a possible price. Now therefore be resolved that in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 8, Paragraph D of the Enfield Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby determine that it is against the best interest of the town to require competitive bidding for the purchase of these sites. Date prepared 9/19/2023, prepared by Chief Alaric J. Fox.
So moved.
Councilor Mangini and second by Councilor Nelson. Any discussion on this? Sheila, roll call.
Councilor Pisner.
4.
Councilor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crissati.
4.
Councilor Despard.
4.
Councilor Finger.
4.
Councilor Hopkins.
4.
Councilor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
And Councilor Nelson.
The next two items
Already got
that
it.
are on the agenda are the Blight Review Committee, for which Councilors Nelson and Santinella are liaisons. So when we get to these, if you want to speak on any one of these, when I'm done with the resolution, I will let you guys have the floor, okay? All right, item F. This is the resolution reducing property maintenance fines at Two Stage Road. Be resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the reduction of property maintenance fines at Two Stage Road related to the property maintenance lien recorded October 26, 2022 at volume 2,855, page 138, from $70,524 to $5,000. Date prepared 9/25/2023, prepared by the Office of Economic and Community Development.
So, second.
Okay, Counselor Mangini, and second by Counselor Nelson. Discussion, and we're going to let it go to
Yep.
Counselor Santinella.
So real quick, just to understand here, this was a property that was seriously blighted. The bank came in, took over this property, immediately remediated the property, and then got it back, is trying to get it back into the market. And so the committee felt that because the bank did the right thing, came in and fixed it up, that we were going to just bring down the liens to a reasonable amount where the town was recovering its cost of staff time and investment in shepherding this along, and that's why the recommendation is what it is.
Okay, thank you. I'll go Counselor Nelson and Counselor Mangini.
Okay, I agree with Councilman Santinella, and I just want to give kudos to this bank because everybody knows you've lived next to a blighted property for 3 years, 4 years, and the banks don't care. Well, I will say this particular bank and its Loan Depot, the minute they get legal right to go on the property, they rectify the situation. And the Blight Committee has agreed that we're going to put a minimum on the reduction of fines, and that is to $5,000 because of all the time the town staff has serving the people and stuff like that. And this particular one is a thank you to the bank for respecting our wishes, because other banks that could care less and don't even answer the phone, they're not going to be so lucky.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Mangini, and then we'll go to Counselor Hopkins.
Thank you. My question, either to Councilman Santinella through our mayor or anybody who can answer this, that's a big reduction from 70,000 down to 5. Where's the formula? How do you get the formula to reduce it that much? That's a big chunk to reduce to.
So let me just explain philosophically where the Blight Committee is at this point. We have historically let liens and fines escalate to the hundreds of thousands of dollars before we attempt to go after and begin a foreclosure process. That means that somebody theoretically is living next to seriously blighted property for years before any action is taken. So in this particular case, the bank came in, and again, we don't want properties to be upside down where banks are just simply saying give it to the town and then it becomes our problem. So in this particular case, as I said, the liens were accumulating, but when the bank finally came in and rectified the problem, the bank was not responsible for the situation. They came in when they owned the property, they fixed the problem, and therefore that's why the committee felt that this is just a minimal balance was reasonable. The property is not upside down. They can get it back on the market and move it on to the next owner. That's why.
But is there a formula that you use, or is it just, let's go down to 5,000?
Councilor Mangini, so there are significant revisions to the blight ordinance that are taking place right now. The Blight Committee is working very hard to memorialize a lot of this, and we feel that $5,000 is a minimum, but nothing should be set in stone, and the council certainly has the right to make it zero. We would like the Blight Committee to come to the council with solid recommendations and a basis for doing what it's doing with some guidelines. Ultimately, it's the council's decision. I'm not trying to create a formula that we all have to live by. We're just trying to offer these as guidelines in the ordinance. Once we get the ordinance rewritten, assuming we are still here, we will have a public hearing so people understand the ramifications of this. But I can tell you that the Blight Committee is pretty unanimous in their determination to reduce the blight in the community and not let us allow people who are maintaining their properties to have to live for endless amounts of time next to properties that are not well maintained.
So then essentially 5,000 was just a fair number that you came up with?
It is the fair number that we arrived at in this
Okay.
particular case. And again, remember, staff takes time to work
Right.
on these
Right.
for extended periods of time, and so it's not like this is cost neutral to the town. We do have staff that are working on these things.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think
Okay, Counselor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of the blight review ordinance is to fix the problems. I think that's important. I know that there have been a lot of prior discussions on how to get blighted properties fixed sooner, and the fact that these fees are so high, arguably unjustifiably high. I worry, though, that essentially charging a fee for every one of these is going to be passed on to people then purchasing that property. We've seen some local folks move into Enfield and take advantage of the first-time home buyer program in town. And in fact, I believe the last one I saw was a house that was turned around from being blighted. The bank is not just going to eat that. They are going to pass it on to homeowners. And I think if we start doing this, businesses will see this, the banks will see that we're doing this every single time, and then they will adjust, whether that's they're not going to take as much as a risk because it changes the ultimate calculation of how much they're making. Maybe they don't actually look to fix these up, look to purchase these. I don't see how that helps regular folks trying to buy a home in Enfield. I think the enforcement needs to get better on the front side, but this is not enforcement. This is well after this property has been fixed, the business has done everything, and we're really just passing it on to the person who's then purchasing that from the bank. So that's my concern. I think if the problem has been fixed, we shouldn't charge a usage fee. It's a government service that we already account for. We have to fix it at the front end. So I think it makes sense to reduce it to zero. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Nelson.
Okay, 99% of the properties that come to blight, they aren't the people who are blighting the properties. It's the bank who has sold the property, already has the purchase and sale agreement in place, and they want to close within 2 weeks. Now, we can stop the sale and say, nope, you're paying $70,000, and the sale falls apart. And then the neighbors end up continuing to live with this property for another year while they try to resolve it. And you yourself, Nick, has said our job is to get these properties cleaned up is our number one priority. So this particular house here has a closing scheduled immediately, and they're waiting on us. When they came to us, they didn't know if it was going to be $70,000 or $5,000. And they already agreed to sell the home to a buyer. So this cost is not getting shifted to the buyer because it's already agreed upon. And we're not set in stone because there's liens. You know, there's clean and lien, where that costs money, where we hire companies to go in and clean up these properties. There's a million different scenarios, which you'll see in the next one that's coming, to where, like Councilman Santinella said, we take every one of them on a case-by-case basis. We did our best synopsis of what is it costing the taxpayers who have to live next to this property for the past 2 years. What does it cost them out of their tax money to pay the staff to go out and violate the property, mail the property, certify letters, resend it, file papers in court? That's not free. And that's all we're doing, is trying to limit the cost to the taxpayers. Their cost is having to live next door to this for years. So we picked a number of $5,000 to cover the document portion of it and the year or whatever it's been going on. And I think it was a fair compromise. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Pisner? 4. Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Ungary? 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala? 4. Mayor Crisati?
4.
Counselor Despard?
4.
Counselor Finger?
4.
Counselor Hopkins?
Against.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini?
4.
And Counselor Nelson?
4.
10 in favor, 1 against.
Item G, resolution to authorize the foreclosure for property maintenance fines totaling $61,299 for 122 Windsor Street. Once again, recommendation from the Blight Committee. Be resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby authorizes the foreclosure of 122 Windsor Street for the $61,299 in property maintenance fines, and be it further resolved that the town manager or her designee is authorized to begin the foreclosure process for the property maintenance liens referenced above. Date prepared 9/29/2023, prepared by the Office of Economic and Community Development.
So moved.
Yeah, Councilor Mangini, and second by Councilor Nelson. Discussion on the motion. We're going to bring it to Councilor Nelson for a review of the case here.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So now this particular case, there's a substantial amount of money that's owed on it. Blight met with the owner of the property. He came in and sat with us, and we came up with a bunch of recommendations to work with them on to rectify the situation. We also agreed that if he cleaned up the property and kept it clean for a certain amount of time, we would recommend reducing his fines to nothing. He agreed. That's the last time we've ever heard from him. The property is still in disarray. He's not returning phone calls, and here we are. And we have other properties in town that the blight fines have hit $350,000. Now the bank is like, we don't want that house. And like Councilman Santinella said, the town just wants it fixed, cleaned up so the neighbors don't have to deal with it. So again, we've agreed we're not going to allow the fines to get to $350,000 anymore. So we have to start with the highest ones. And a while back, you guys agreed on Burnham, which was 300 and something thousand. And this is the same thing. And you're going to see the numbers are getting smaller because our goal is to get the bank to say, wait a second, if we don't pay the $30,000 fine or clean up the property, the town of Enfield's taking it. So the bank will go in and fix the project. Our goal is our taxpayers don't have to live next to this anymore, and to get it cleaned up as fast as possible. Councilman Santinella, if you want to.
No, only to add, I believe staff was going to share, they had some photos for us to share. Has everybody
Okay.
seen those?
Yeah.
Just so that you see the, sorry, it was in your packet. I apologize. Yep, no, I saw them. So you just see the status of the property. And again, we've made the effort and given the homeowner time to rectify the situation, and this is where we are.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Hopkins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this one makes sense, right? It's fixing a problem. It's enforcement for these businesses that have just sat for a very, very long time. Thank you. Excuse me, these houses that have sat for a very long time.
Okay, thank you. Any other further discussion? You're gonna have to wait. We're gonna be going through this. You had your opportunity to speak before.
I would move to have him be able to say some words, Bob. This is his house and livelihood. I don't know too much about him. I would make that motion to suspend the rules.
I'd second it.
Give him 3 minutes on him.
All right.
I've been trying to clean that up. I'm disabled.
There's a mic. Please state your name and your address.
Timothy Collins. Is that working?
Is it red light on?
Yeah, it's on.
Thank you.
I'm Timothy Collins. I live at 122 Windsor Street here in Enfield. I've only been here about 5 years. During COVID, I had allowed a couple people to stay at my house, and they were destroying and bringing stuff, destroying my property basically. And one of them was a owner of a roofing company. So I had building material, I had lawnmowers he brought and everything else. And he actually was physical with me and made me afraid of my own home. So I called the police. Police came in and said, "There's nothing you can do. He gets mail here. He lives here." I'm like, but then he left, and he left me with all his stuff. And here I am with one arm. It rains every darn weekend. To get a family member or someone to come and help me, it's come a long way. If you haven't driven by, I'm close to having my yard back. And my neighbors are absolutely fine with me. Because I do things in the neighborhood for them. I cut their lawns and I do their, because I have a riding tractor, so I go across the street and I do the neighbors. I do this one, I do that one. So it's not a problem. The problem was caused by the fact that the people I wanted gone in my house I was required to make them stay and had to go through the court system to get them out. And they just disrespected my property even more, knowing that I was trying to get them out. And I battled cancer from age 9 to 49. I'm 55. I'm cancer free. I do the best I can at everything. I didn't want my property to be like that. I want it to be worth something. You know, I owe $105,000 on it still. And with the blight and the liens, even more now. What is taking it from me going to do when my neighbors enjoy having me as a neighbor? I'm asking the council. Where does this money go? If you don't give it to the neighbors, it just goes into the town coffer, or doesn't make sense to me. Kind of feels to me like bullying in school. You know, you may have a nicer house than me. You've also had your health. I'm happy you do. I'm not, you know, I don't want anybody to go through what I did. I spent 3 years in a wheelchair. I'm not the type to sit at home to get food stamps and get free housing and everything else. I get my butt up every day and I work every day. And I work 7 days a week.
Through the mayor to the guest, what's the state of the property now?
The same.
The same.
No. Lori, this is the same story we heard 6 months ago.
I have people coming. I sold the dump truck and the camper. That's good. Those are going out this week. And then I can finish cleaning up down near the driveway. It's just overgrown weeds and stuff down there that I couldn't get to because
we can't have a back and forth here. We can't have a back and forth. We have public communications. You could have come up. You were here the whole meeting. You chose not to come up, okay? And this is not a back and forth. We did receive today photos of the property. So unless somebody else has anything to say.
Because I know the gentleman's story is real. We agree. And we felt for him 6 months ago. And we worked with him. And we were going to reduce the fines to nothing. And nothing happened. We offered to do a clean and lean. We were going to pay to clean up the property. Nothing. No word from him. The camper and the boat were going to be gone.
I was down here every week. I don't know what you're talking about. I talked to you
Camper and the
lady.
boat were going to be gone, and they're still there. He can clean up the property, and once he does, come back to Blight, and once it's acceptable to the Blight officer, we will bring it back to the council and ask the council to stop the foreclosure, but he's going to have to pay whatever legal fees we have up to that point. You know, what else can we do? This is what we can do. The residents out there who live next door to houses in this shape are begging us to do something. And Blight is not a town just driving around saying, oh, I'm going to blight this house. Blight is a complaint from another resident. So obviously, one of his neighbors does not approve of this.
That neighbor moved out 2 years ago, out of the neighborhood.
Councilor Santinella.
Thank you. Could I just ask, through the mayor to the town manager and the town attorney, could I just ask for do you have a comment or?
If I may, yeah, sure. So it's a policy decision for the council, but if you approve the resolution, it would fall to our office to file a foreclosure complaint. It's going to be in court for a long, long time. And, you know, I would prefer, listen, if I'm the one signing the complaint, hearing this story, it's going to be very sympathetic to the court. And I would just urge, perhaps you tap the brakes and let's just there's no need to rush it tonight.
what-
That's my recommendation as your
Well,
town attorney.
Also, on that, I would like to table this item.
I'll second.
And I'd like to table this item and bring this back and do what you have to do so that when the Blight Committee can go back and you can meet up with them and communicate with them, maybe things can get back in order. But this has been going on for some time now.
Well, I wanted to know
This has been
too.
going on for some time. We saw pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need help? People that need to help you clean up?
I could use help. Yeah, all I have is my car, and how do you get rid of stuff? How do you get rid of
must mean
lawnmowers and
yes
stuff
that you
people
do need
brought?
the help.
I do need help.
You
Yeah,
do
I
need
can't-
help.
I got
Okay.
one arm.
Well, that's good, and I'm glad that you admitted that you need help.
Yeah.
Then we can get you help, so that your life can move on.
See, now, the Blight Committee told me in the beginning, they mentioned the was it lean and clean or something like that? I forget. Well, I don't know the exact term. But they said they didn't know if they could do that. They never gave me a yes or no.
I'm going to bring it over to the town manager
And I
because
said I was
we're
gonna
gonna-
try.
We're going to tape.
To do everything in my power.
We're going to table it.
So just to wrap this up, I do think that there are opportunities, if you were to table this to your next meeting, that my office, the town attorney's office, could work with the Blight Review Committee and Christy Koistinen to get some documentation about things that the Blight Review Committee thinks is important, because you're between a rock and a hard place now. You have a blight policy that you need to follow, because otherwise everybody's going to see that there's no teeth in it, so there does need to be follow-through. However, I do believe that this is a compelling story that for a 2-week stay of execution, if you could table it, we could identify whether Clean and Lean could come in and do a portion, which obviously comes back to the town. Councilor Ludwig suggested the housing rehabilitation program. We could explore that as an option. I think part of this Blight Review Committee and how they're transforming it from a policy perspective and getting away from the excessive, constant, daily fines is to identify programs of support and to get things done and get houses cleaned so neighbors don't have to look at them. This could be a really great case study for us to pull all of those potential programs together to make it happen for Mr. Collins and the neighborhood, and to make sure that the Blight Review Committee stays relevant in terms of what they're trying to accomplish.
All right, well, thank you. By a raise of hands, how many people would agree to tabling this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's unanimous. This item is tabled.
Mr. Collins, we'll contact you through the staff in the Community Development Office. Christy, who you've been working with, will make contact with you tomorrow, and we'll try to create a plan.
Yeah, she's not even here. I was going to say, the girl I come in and see all the time isn't even here. I'm like, what do I do?
Okay.
She'll know me.
Yep.
I can't forget this ugly face.
We're going to move on to item H, the Higgins
My
Park.
apologies. I'm not trying to be against it. You know, my first year I was here, I had the police department knock on my door and shake my hand. 'Cause, I went out, I went to Dollar Tree and I bought. Okay.
Okay, we're good.
It's okay.
We're good. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Item H, Higgins Park Value Engineering Proposal to complete the parking lot improvements. All right, we had instructed the town staff to go back and do some engineering for the parking lot and the lighting that needs to be done behind the town hall. We met earlier in a special meeting to discuss this work. Now we're requiring the transfer, but no additional appropriations. So I'm going to read through the Higgins Park engineering proposal. And be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby approve the reallocation of $613,324.80 from the listed ARPA-funded line items, the Higgins Park parking lot project from COVID-19 fund, the COVID service pay of $500, the front-load refuse truck, $805.40, the Enfield Street sprinkler, $9,515.40. The Alcorn boilers, steam piping, $200,000. The bulky waste compactor, $250,000. The midi excavator, $2,504. The Weymouth Challenge grant, $150,000 to the COVID-19 fund. Express parking lot, $613,324.80. They prepared 9/29/2023, prepared by Ellen Zapusasu, the town manager.
So moved.
Councilor Mangini, and a second by Councilor Santinella. We discussed this downstairs. Is there any further discussion on this? Councilor Nelson.
So the more I think about this, I brought up the bridge right across the way the last meeting. I haven't gotten a phone call back. We haven't heard a word about it. And again, I urge every one of you council members to take a walk across it. That's the bridge that connects this park. Crickets. I've asked for sidewalks on Upper Abbey Road and Post Office Road, and I'm told, find the money. We don't have the money. But it's amazing, we just found $1 million to do this. What about maintaining the projects that we have going or the buildings we own before we start taking on more and more and more problems? I mean, that bridge, we're gonna get sued for. I'm saying it again, and it falls on deaf ears. Sidewalks on Post Office Road, somebody's gonna break their ankle. People were promised sidewalks up on Abbey, never got them. So I can't support this because we can find money for everybody's pet projects, but when it comes to the maintenance and the major issues within our town, like pump stations that are dying right now, Weymouth Road won't take sewerage. I'm not going to get into it. And we're going to spend $1 million here. So the more I thought about this, I just can't support it. Thank you.
We're going to go with Councilor Despard, and we're going to go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right down.
Yeah, so I agree with Councilor Santinella. This is something that, or not Councilor Santinella, Councilor Nelson. I think, I've been looking for, asking for things in District 3 and being told to find the money, and it feels like we're just spending all of our money down here, which I think it's a beautiful park, and I think it's a great idea. And at the same time, I do think there needs to be a little bit more equity with how we're spending our money. So this isn't something that I'm going to support.
Deputy Mayor Scala.
Thank you. I actually don't have a problem with people disagreeing on if we should spend this money down there. What I have an issue with and what I take issue with is calling it a pet project. Because ironically, this started under your administration, under your majority, and then we are trying to clean it up and finish it here. So what this is doing is completing the parking lot so we can add parking spaces to really complete this downtown Higgin Park area, which ironically I was against in the very beginning because they yanked down a softball field, the only softball field that had lights. But here we are, and now it's wildly popular and an amazingly popular concert series. So we can get this parking lot done, hopefully starting in the next couple of weeks if we go through this. I get it. I sympathize and I understand. I don't have a problem with people feeling like some of this money should be spent elsewhere. I take issue with anybody calling it a pet project for political reasons, because that's kind of bullshit.
Okay. I'm just going to jump in to the conversation. We have talked about this project for quite some time, and I think everybody here, I know we can agree to disagree, but I think everybody's, the conceptual idea of this express parking lot, and, I'm a little annoyed with the pet project too, because I think the pet project that we had was selling that real estate company, Ken, where I think that you worked in, and you really had that great idea of having, oh, we can make this a beautiful parking lot, we can put bathrooms in here, it's really going to enhance that, but,
court was my idea.
but,
That's it.
you know, I have the floor. You have enough of it. Just give me a couple of minutes. You know, I am total agreement with saying that this project needs to get completed. And I'm also in agreement that I would like to see some funds, and we've talked about this in DPW, about some of the additional funds that we could possibly have to finish off some sidewalks. And I think that is very important. So if we can do this, we can do those additional sidewalks that cost a heck of a lot less than what we're spending here. And I'm sure that we could find money to get those done, even though they're on the list to get done. I think that could be a priority. But I am overall in favor of this particular project to get this Higgins Park really looking a lot sharper than what it is right now. And to finish off the project, I think is important for the town, along with those sidewalks on Abbey Road. So we're going to go to Councilor Pisner.
Okay, so when we discussed this the other night at our caucus, I went through this, and I don't have a problem with the parking lot. There's a lot of add-ons here that I think that we need to look at. So the parking lot is $613,000. What we're not seeing is there's an additional $426,000 of add-ons that is coming in through the landscape company. So I'm looking at that and saying some of that could be scaled back at this time. I just think it's a big chunk of change. And again, the parking lot, I'm okay, I get that, we need the parking. But some of these other items that are added on, I mean, there's $47,000 of landscaping. I cannot support this as it's written. It's too much money.
Is there anybody else? Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you. Just briefly. So some of the line items that this money is taken from are things that we have litigated in prior budgets. I've initially was against, and then we moved to this budget. I think these things are important. I think they're going to need to be paid for at some point. I think it's a beautiful park. There are other beautiful parks in town. We need to be more planful with how to build on them. And I don't think this is the best way to do it. You're kind of, robbing Peter to save Paul, in my opinion. So I would not support this as is. Thank you.
Councilor Ongare.
I really want to see this project completed, but I'd rather have a different breakdown. It kills me that I can't support this because I really want to.
Councilor Santinella.
Yep. Okay. So some of this is just through the mayor to the town manager. Some of this is ARPA funds left over from other projects, correct? Yes. Right. And some of this is funds that are moved over because the projects that we thought were going to cost a certain amount of money are going to actually be more expensive than what was anticipated, and we need to go back to the table on those, right? That being said, we just never seem to be able to bring anything to a conclusion and just end up fighting over the last details. I think we all agree that we would like to see this project done. I don't think we have the votes here right now to get this done tonight. I think it might be better for us to kind of table this. Let's look at this one more time and then come back and visit this at our last meeting and see if we can't get this done. I'd rather do that than to see it fail.
Well, I'm going to make the recommendation to table this particular item. Second. Seconded by Councilor Santinella. All in favor?
I don't think there is on a motion.
Question.
So with that being said, through the mayor, the town manager, back when I was a crew leader at Buildings and Grounds, we had to shut that down to get it fixed, the bridge across Gunna Pond. And it was supposed to be money that was saved for that to be refurbished by this company. I can't remember the name. I apologize. Maybe Mr. Gar can help you with that. He's not here, of course. or Steve or something, yeah.
We do have an update that the assistant town manager can give as it relates to that and the scope of your
I remember,
overall.
I remember being with the contractor when I walked him through that whole bridge, not through the bridge, what I'm saying, around the bridge and stuff, so. But I just want to know what happened to the money that was appropriated for that.
We can't speak to the money, but I thought it would come up in counselor communications, and when it didn't, it slipped my mind. But we did review the bridge. We are having an engineer come out to look at and update the structural report that we have from 2014. 2014. The Public Works Department has gone out and made the bridge safe, in terms of there are no more protruding nails. They replaced a whole bunch of the flooring piece of it, and it's in use still to this day. When we get the engineering report, we will have more information. We also believe that this project can be linked with the freshwater dredging project that is scheduled for next fiscal year, and there could be some work done at the same time. But at this point, the bridge is open. There's been some quick repairs.
B&G uses it
Yeah.
for their equipment.
And they actually drove something over it the other day, and it was fine. So that's the update on the bridge. We understand about competing priorities. In terms of the monies and how they were identified, I would just remind you that we clear accounts usually twice a year. We did it back in May. If some of you remember, the Public Works Director had a whole series of items before the close of the fiscal year that he needed to transfer in order to finish his work for that fiscal year. That is an appropriate time to review accounts and make those transfers. The second time when it's appropriate is when you're closing your budget for the previous year and handing it off to the auditors. And that's what we've done with this. The two projects that Councilor Santinello was referencing, one was the Alcorn project, which has to be resized for its scope, and the other one was a piece of equipment that the Public Works Department, upon further investigation, has found that it's probably not an appropriate fit for how we do business, based on three-phase power versus one-phase power, based on some of the issues on how it would affect efficiency, and frankly, it would probably require additional manpower. So that is why that one has come off the list, because they went and did some additional homework that had not been available to them from other communities during the budget process. So all legitimate, all things that we can use. There's other opportunities, I guess, but this was a construction seasonal type ask that we could probably get something done now before the season ends.
And I'm glad that this is going to be voted on to be tabled, because there's a few other issues other than the parking that I definitely want to inform you guys. One is the electrical to the band shell. We had complaints. I think Councilor Finger even called me saying, hey, they're complaining about the diesel fumes coming from the generator for the band shell to actually work. And we had to chase people down and try to remedy that. But without electrical, that's what we have to use, is a diesel generator. And it does waft, the fumes waft into the field, and people are smelling it. So that's of paramount importance, because we don't want people with carbon monoxide poisoning as they sit and enjoy the concert. So.
If I can.
I think we're still on the motion to table.
We're still on the motion to table.
This is the motion to table.
It is. We've had a first and a second. We have to vote on it. All in favor of tabling this particular item? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, seven in favor of tabling, and against? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 against. Item H is tabled. Okay. Items I, J, and K, these items are going to be tabled. Do I have a motion? Motion. And Councilor Mangini, and a second by Councilor Ungary. All in favor? What do we have? All in favor, could you please raise your hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 in favor, and against? 3 against. We will now move to item 14, public communications.
Any other business before the meeting?
Excuse me.
I'd like to go back to where you cut me off. when you were tabling.
Item 13, go ahead.
So when I asked about having 200 feet of sidewalks done on Post Office Road because a taxpayer called me and said they almost broke their ankle on it, our Director of Public Works told me, find the money. Well, guess what? I found the money. It's right here. And if we can't find money for important issues like public safety, then what are we doing expanding projects? And when I say pet projects, I'm not pointing my finger at anybody because I wasn't involved in Higgins Park. And if you want to go back far enough, I would have never tore down the Lamagna Center because we took the only place the kids have to play in the wintertime out of the center of town. So I don't support that either. Yes, it's a great park, but when does it start? We got Powder Hollow. We invested how many millions in? That hasn't started yet. We got Higgins Park. We got everybody has their little pet projects. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we still got to look at the necessities our town needs to keep going. And I wish Ellen had given me the update about the bridge sooner because I might have felt a little better about it. But nobody's saying anything about it. Councilman Finger's the only one who addressed it. And John, it's in your district, and you still haven't walked across it.
I was over the bridge the other day.
Hey, and you have nothing to say about that?
Okay.
No, I have the floor, Bob.
But point of order, I said at the beginning of the meeting, we're not going to go back and forth and jostle here. Just make your point.
My
what you
point
made
is,
was.
I just found the money for the sidewalks on Post Office Road. So please tell Donald Nunes that, and let's get some sidewalks repaired before somebody actually really gets hurt.
Okay, thank you. We will now go to public communications, 3 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to fully commend the councilors who voted Zach Zanoni, 6 Howard Street, Enfield, Connecticut, who voted to implement the recommendations for the review. So let's just kind of take a step back. There has been 17 weeks to make decisions about this for a document that was all of 74 pages. It wasn't, a challenge to read it. There has been court TV style meetings. There has been egos. There has been this person did this crime, this person committed this crime, our town staff did these things, and this conspiracy thing. Honestly, I would love to see a wall of the conspiracies that have been just blasted over the past 17 weeks. It's honestly embarrassing. And after 17 weeks, we should just throw everything out and have a committee? Seriously? Why don't we make a motion to fund a study to see if we need a committee? Maybe we should do that. The role of the council is a policy acting body. These are policy recommendations, and to be quite honest, I don't think most of the residents want the BAA or the assessor involved in any of those decisions, because there's a lot of distrust for both of those people. Whether anyone likes to admit it or not, that's the reality. I'm not going to give them the keys to the castle to make the decisions for this town and how the assessment process goes forward, and neither should you. That's why you need to wear the pants in the room and make the decisions. There was 17 weeks to determine what steps to go forward, and this is the first time I'm hearing about an idea that we are going to throw everything away and go back to Route 1. It's ridiculous. Everyone up here can agree what transpired was wrong. There is a lot of work to be done. Very few people benefited from it, unless you're Lori Longy and you were able to pay nothing on your taxes. Then I guess it would be a benefit. My apologies, Mr. Mayor. My apologies. I recant that. But the fact is, everyone can agree what transpired needs to be rectified. That's a fact. And there are recommendations that most people can agree upon, can move forward. For some, it's not enough. For some, it's too much. But it's progress. There has been 17 weeks in which taxpayers haven't gotten answers, and not a damn thing was done until tonight. And we're going to continue to drag this forward? That's ridiculous. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Joshua Hamry, 52 New King Street. I just wanted to bring you all up to speed on the Enfield High School football team. They're 3-0 this year. I just wanted to put that out there because the game, the game this past Friday night was in that torrential rain that we've all talked about, the 5+ inches, give or take, and they still pulled off a win. They are not using squib kicks for their kickoffs. They're actually putting that in the end zone. They're getting the job done. They're making our town proud. They're making themselves proud, and they're getting it done. I hope you can come out to the rest of the games this season because I don't want to ruin anything, but it's a good time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Good.
My kid played in. Nikki Price, 1324 Enfield Street. I found it humorous that town staff jumped on a needed 2/3 vote for Councilman Nelson's former committee when at the special meeting of September 26, when they allowed, in other words, town staff did not jump on the bandwagon with a 2/3 vote regarding Mario Coppola to say his 4 minutes at the end of the meeting. That was against FOIA statutes. I hope you realize that, because that needed a official vote from the town council by 2/3 to have Mario speak. Now, I also want to say something about the town charter. To Councilman Ludwig, you're absolutely right. If any section, 10 years following the adoption of these amendments and every 10 years thereafter, unless the council recommends the charter be reviewed sooner, the council shall appoint a commission whose duty it shall be to review the existing charter and make such recommendations as it may see fit for revision. This charter may be amended in the manner prescribed by law. So you're right. You can have as many members on the committee that you want. It's you guys' decision, not their decision. You recommend to them how many people you want on the charter revision. And lastly, I just have to say to the mayor, I appreciate that you want decorum, but when you have council people using foul language as BS, I won't say it, I think it's wrong. You expect the same from us. Every member of that council should be expected the same courtesy to us. Thank you.
George Young, Holly Lane. Is this on? It's on now. Councilor Sakala, I passed out these things here, and I believe that I said in paragraph 5 regarding the $100 million, all of which would not be reimbursable by the state of Connecticut if approved. And that's what, and then I went on. But I was saying not all of it. That means some of it would be. So, and I think the rate, if my memory serves me correct, is 71.9%. But you can, that's just from memory, so it could be wrong. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? All right, public communications are over. Any final comments from anybody?
Yes.
Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. It is very disturbing to have these constant attacks against our town staff, our state government. It seems to me that because we are entering the political season, campaign time, this referendum issue, why isn't the governor giving us more money? Well, let's get it in writing. I mean, it's like a witch hunt. We're lucky we're getting what we're getting, and we should be thankful and work with what we've got and what we're getting. And it just disturbs me that there's so much hostility. Our town staff and bond council is doing a phenomenal job working with the town of Enfield to secure funds to make the language appropriate, because the general public, the residents, the voters, obviously knew fully well what they were voting for because it passed. And it passed very handsomely, which I'm very appreciative of. Now, the other point of interest here that to me is very disturbing, making a derogatory comment against our police chief. I will stand behind that man 6 ways from Sunday and the department that he leads. We are very fortunate in our town to have a stellar police department, and to question his integrity/ability/leadership is very disgraceful. And I have to voice my concern and my objection to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Second.
Deputy Mayor Scala, and second by Councilor Despard. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Who commented about the